Chapter 1720, Evil God's Inheritance. Chapter 1720, Evil God's Inheritance. When Shifeng started appraising the two items Dairo dropped, the mana density inside the closed carriage rapidly increased. Like two hungry beasts that had just woken up, the two items absorbed the ambient mana around them ravenously. This situation surprised Shifeng somewhat. He had never thought that the two items Dairo dropped would be so amazing. Right now, the mana density in the carriage was slightly above even that of Stone Forest Town. The mana absorption process eventually stopped after about 10 seconds. The situation inside the carriage then quickly reverted to its original state. Previously, the two items Shifeng obtained had been sealed, which gave them the appearance of purplish gold crystal balls and made it impossible to discern their identity. In fact, the only information Shifeng got when he tried inspecting the items was their name, sealed crystal ball, and nothing else. Meanwhile, upon seeing the two unsealed items, Shifeng could not help but be stunned. Of the two items, one was a broken longsword, and the other was a gemstone that radiated 5 different colored glows. Evil God's Inheritance, One-Handed Sword. A treasured sword that the evil god once used. However, the sword was destroyed in a battle, shattered into 3 pieces. Although the evil god's treasured sword was destroyed, the power of the evil god contained inside it remains intact. As long as one gathers all 3 fragments, it is possible for the sword to regain its past glory. This piece is the broken hilt of the sword. By permanently sacrificing 10 points of all attributes, the user may execute 1 slash with the sword. Although this sword has been severely damaged, it can still exert 1/10 of its original power. When this fragment is within 1,000 yards of other fragments, the fragments will resonate with each other. Drops upon death. Cannot be traded. Limit gemstone, epic consumable. Can be embedded into a weapon or equipment to permanently improve it. Can be used on only epic ranked items or below. Shifeng shuddered involuntarily as he looked at the descriptions of these two items, his eyes glowing with excitement. Although he had long since known that the loot of a Tier 4 NPC would be extraordinary and certainly superior to epic items, he had never imagined that Dairo would drop these two items. The Evil God's Inheritance was a weapon the evil god had used frequently when it was still intact. In its complete form, it should be a legendary weapon at the very least. Although he had only a fragment of the weapon, it could lead to obtaining a real legendary weapon. Its value was definitely higher than that of a fragmented legendary weapon. After all, legendary items were exceedingly rare in God's domain, and every one of them had extraordinary origins. Not to mention, most of the clues players found that were related to legendary items were usually fake. Meanwhile, the most valuable aspect about the Evil God's Inheritance was the fact that it could be used. Even though it was capable of exerting only 10% of its original power, that was 10% of a legendary weapon's power, not something a fragmented legendary weapon could hope to compare to. Only, the price to use the weapon was a little steep. Let alone other players, even Shifeng would feel a sting if he had to pay 10 points in all attributes just to swing the weapon once. As for the other item Dairo dropped, it was something Shifeng had only ever heard about before. During his previous life, the Limit Gemstone had appeared in an auction hosted by a super guild. However, the Limit Gemstone sold back then wasn't supplied by the hosting super guild. Instead, it was an item some other player had put up for trade. When this item appeared during the bartering session of the auction, it had immediately caused an uproar at the auction venue. After all, the best weapon and equipment that peak experts could get their hands on back then were only epic rank. Fragmented legendary items were still far out of their reach. Hence, to them, an item capable of improving epic weapons and equipment was far more valuable than even epic weapons. In the end, the Limit Gemstone had been traded for 1 epic weapon and 3 pieces of top-tier dark gold equipment of that time. Back then, nobody had a strong opinion on this price. It was neither too expensive nor too cheap. Only sometime later did everyone find out that the buyer of the Limit Gemstone had ended up making a huge profit. The Limit Gemstone turned out to be even more amazing than everyone thought it to be. Just like its name implied, it improved a weapon or equipment to its maximum limit, not just slightly. From then onward, whenever a limit gemstone appeared, it would sell for astronomical prices, even as much as 3 epic items. Back then, however, Shifeng was only qualified to use the limit gemstone as a topic of conversation. Actually owning one had been far beyond him. He never dreamed that he would obtain one himself in this life. It can upgrade only weapons and equipment at the epic rank or below. As Shifeng looked at the resplendent gemstone in his hand, he could not help but think of the sacred sword Killing Ray. As one of the 36 famed swords of God's domain, Killing Ray was much stronger than any ordinary epic weapon. Moreover, it also had immense growth potential as it was one of the fragments of Solomon's sword, one of God's domain's 10 great legendary weapons. Since it was once part of a legendary weapon, the quality of the materials used to forge Killing Ray went without saying. One could say that it was the best item to improve with the limit gemstone. Immediately, Shifeng unsheathed Killing Ray and placed the limit gemstone on the flat of the sword. Following which, the sound of a system notification entered his ears. System, do you wish to embed the limit gemstone in Killing Ray? Embed it. Shifeng agreed decisively. Suddenly, the 5-colored gemstone liquefied and spread itself across Killing Ray. A short moment later, the sacred sword was encased entirely in a layer of 5-colored liquid as if the long sword had just put on a 5-colored sheath. Following which, the glow from the 5-colored liquid intensified, so much so that Shifeng couldn't look at the sword directly. After several seconds the phenomenon subsided, and Killing Ray reverted to its original state. At this moment, however, several divine runes graced the sword's body, adding a hint of divinity to the sacred sword. As Shifeng wielded Killing Ray, he felt a pleasant feeling like never before. Right now, aside from his impression that the sacred sword was more powerful than before, Shifeng sensed that his compatibility with it had improved substantially. Now, Killing Ray felt more like an extension of his arm rather than a weapon. He could clearly perceive the layers of air the sacred sword was cutting through. In addition, golden arcs of electricity were sparking along the edges of the sword. Even after the sacred sword had moved away, arcs of electricity still lingered in the space it occupied before, vaporizing the air and anything else that came across them. Amazing! It is actually capable of causing continuous damage to places I've attacked before? Is this the true power of Killing Ray? Shifeng was astonished as he looked at Killing Ray. Epic weapons and equipment were extremely rare in God's domain, those that had hidden effects were even rarer. These hidden effects went unstated in the attribute panel and did not appear to be salient. However, only players that had wielded these kinds of weapons and equipment before would realize how significant these hidden effects actually were toward improving one's combat power. In fact, they were much more important than the attributes listed in the attribute panel. Take Fire Dance's 1,000 transformations for example. The hidden effect the fragmented legendary weapon possessed was simply heaven-defying. No matter what kind of attacks Fire Dance faced, she could easily block it by executing a random swing with her short sword. It was as if the entire space around her was within the attack trajectory of her weapon. It was simply impossible to predict her trajectory with 1,000 transformations. Due to 1,000 transformations' hidden effect, even if Fire Dance's combat standards were lacking, she could still hold her ground against Apex experts. Meanwhile, although Killing Ray's hidden effect was not a match for 1,000 transformations, it was still very frightening. Being able to cause damage to places he had attacked before would undoubtedly increase his DPS significantly. If utilized properly, he could even seal his opponent's movements, preventing all retaliation. Killing Ray's hidden effect would pose trouble even for Void Realm experts, not to mention other experts. After playing with Killing Ray's hidden effect for a while longer, Shifeng could no longer hold back, tapping open the Sacred Sword's attribute panel. He was very curious to find out just how much Killing Ray had improved. Chapter 1721, Upgraded Sacred Sword. After Shifeng opened Killing Ray's attribute panel and read it, he could not help but gasp. Killing Ray. Level 30, Level 120. Equipment requirement. Strength 1200, Agility 1000. Attributes adjust according to user's level. Attack power plus 2440, level 65. Strength plus 173, Agility plus 165, Endurance plus 162. Attack speed plus 25. Ignore 30% of the target's defense. When equipped. Strength increased by 20%, Agility increased by 15%, and attack speed increased by 10%. Ignore levels plus 20. All sword skills plus 3 levels. All item level requirements reduced by 5 levels. Attacks have a 40% chance to trigger the lightning effect, increasing initial attack speed to 50% of the maximum and damage by 260%. Additional skill 1 dash. Summon lightning. Summons lightning to deal 600% lightning damage to enemies within a range of 20 yards and inflict the numb effect for 5 seconds. Afterward, attack range increased by 20 yards for 30 seconds. Cooldown, 5 minutes. Additional skill 2 dash. Thunder God's Descent. Become immune to all control skills. Movement speed and attack speed increased by 150%, damage increased by 50%, and all damage received decreased by 60% for 30 seconds. Cooldown, 1 hour. Additional skill 3 dash. Lightning Slash. Imbue the power of lightning on the body of the sword, increasing strength by 330% and attack speed by 100% to execute a frontal attack that covers an area of 3 by 80 yards. Cooldown, 15 minutes. A sacred sword created by the godsmith Arnold using a piece of mysterious sword fragment. Killing Ray is one of the 36 famed swords of God's domain, ranking 20th. It was once a sword used by the Thunder Emperor Kaiser. Allows the wielder to have the speed of lightning. When fighting against dark creatures, damage increased by 100%. Can be evolved. Cannot be destroyed. For a moment, Shi Feng even suspected that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Not only had Killing Ray's equipment requirement increased by a significant margin, but even its attack power had risen drastically. At level 65, its attack power already exceeded 2,400, close to rivaling the attack power of an epic two-handed weapon of the same level. Originally, Killing Ray was already a top-tier epic weapon. After being upgraded by the Limit Gemstone, its basic attributes had improved by 20%. Even the other effects were 5% better. The weapon's skills had also been strengthened to a certain degree, and there was even the addition of a new skill, Lightning Slash. Although Lightning Slash did not deal a lot of damage, the increase in strength it provided was crucial to expert players because higher strength allowed players to suppress their opponent and create gaps to land a fatal blow. With my current attack power, I can most likely break through even a Tier 2 MT's defense. Shi Feng was startled as he looked at his own statistics. In God's domain, even if players landed a direct hit on another player's body, their target's defense would weaken their attacks, preventing 100% damage dealing. To deal 100% damage with an attack, a player would have to overcome their opponent's defense limit, which was determined by a player's defense value and armor type. Even at the same defense value, different armor types would grant different defense limits. For example, at the same defense value, the defense limit of plate armor would greatly exceed that of cloth armor. However, once a player's strength and attack power reached a certain measure, they could break through even an MT's defense limit and deal 100% damage with their attacks. After achieving such a measure of strength and attack power, what kind of armor one's opponent wore would no longer matter. Just as Shi Feng was getting a feel for Killing Ray's newfound power, the advanced horse carriage he was riding finally arrived at the entrance of the War God's Temple. Currently, the War God's Temple was as lively as ever. The number of players visiting the temple was not the slightest bit lower than that of the city's auction house and of the Adventurers Association. However, in Shi Feng's opinion, the traffic at the War God's Temple was still relatively low. The War God's Temple was the protector of the entire continent of God's domain. As players reached higher levels, they would come across the dark forces, such as demons, evil demons, and abyssal creatures, more frequently. Moreover, after players got promoted to Tier 2, so long as their War God's Temple reputation points reached 300, they could receive special quests to deal with these dark forces. These quests generally awarded plenty of merit points, in addition to some special resources. Meanwhile, after players accumulated 500 reputation points with the temple, they could start accepting large-scale crusade quests, which required players to target the gathering points for the dark forces. In the past, this was the type of quest that the various large guilds enjoyed accepting the most because at least half of the town-building orders they obtained originated from these crusade quests. If a large guild wished to have a better time developing in neutral maps, they would shift their focus to the War God's Temple. Currently, most of the players visiting the War God's Temple were independent players, only a small minority were guild players. In the future, however, the situation would be reversed with a large majority of the players visiting the War God's Temple being members of large guilds. As soon as Shifeng arrived at the main entrance of the War God's Temple, he attracted the attention of the nearby players. Crap! That's a 6-winged bronze-ranked guild emblem. That person must be a member of Zero Wing's main force. It would be great if I could get acquainted with such a big shot. That way, I'll have an easier time joining Zero Wing. Keep on dreaming. How could people like us possibly come into contact with a big shot from Zero Wing? He belongs to an entirely different world. Not to mention, everyone trying to join Zero Wing has to go through the same entrance test. I heard that even players personally introduced by Zero Wing's guild leader, Black Flame, have to pass the test to join the guild. The eyes of the players standing outside the War God's Temple's main entrance were filled with awe and envy as they looked at the guild emblem pinned on Shifeng's black cloak. From the recent battle at the Primordial Divine Ruin, both the various large guilds and independent players could already tell that the odds of Zero Wing becoming a super first-rate guild in the future were excellent. Super first-rate guilds were powers that stood at the apex of God's domain. Even a first-rate guild backed by multiple major corporations would have to treat super first-rate guilds with great respect lest it provoke them. Meanwhile, who wouldn't want to join a guild with such great potential? In the virtual gaming world's past 100 years of history, players that belonged to first-rate guilds that eventually grew into super first-rate guilds had received great benefits. Particularly, expert players that originally belonged to the first-rate guild had been able to live the rest of their lives without worry. Those that had contributed greatly towards the guild's promotion into a super first-rate guild even lived an enviable and affluent life. Now that Zero Wing had displayed the potential to become a super first-rate guild, let alone Star Moon Kingdom's players, even players from other kingdoms and empires had come to Star Moon Kingdom to apply to Zero Wing. When Shifeng overheard the hushed conversations of the surrounding crowd, he simply chuckled as he continued into the War God's Temple. After entering the temple's lobby, he immediately went to the third-floor hall. Lord Protector, how may I be of service to you today? Senior Administrator Roland asked as he approached Shifeng. I have caught an evil god apostle and wish to hand him over to Vice Temple Lord Capra, Shifeng said. Another evil god apostle? Roland's eyes twitched slightly as he looked at Shifeng in surprise. Every evil god apostle was incomparably cunning and extremely difficult to catch. Since Shifeng had already caught an apostle before, logically, other evil god apostles should operate with even greater care, increasing the difficulty of capturing them. Yet, now, Shifeng had actually managed to capture another one shortly after he captured the last one. Lord Protector, please follow me. This time, Roland did not bother verifying the truth of Shifeng's words. Instead, he directly brought Shifeng to the fourth floor's triumphant hall. Afterward, Shifeng entered the same astrology room he had gone to during his last visit to the triumphant hall. Currently, Vice Temple Lord Capra was carrying out research through the gigantic magic water ball at the center of the room. Lord Capra, I caught another evil god apostle. Please verify it, Shifeng said as he took out the mobile jail detaining flame blood. Young adventurer, you truly are the nemesis of the evil god apostles, Capra said, laughing as he paused his work. With a light wave of his hand, Shifeng's mobile jail then suddenly appeared in his palm. After Capra received the mobile jail, Flame Blood's figure appeared before Capra. How is this possible? Flame Blood's complexion paled when he saw Capra and the nearby Shifeng. Beast Emperor actually failed? At this moment, he could easily guess what kind of place he was at. Only, he never thought that Shifeng would actually elude Beast Emperor's capture and successfully deliver him to the War God's temple. Black Flame. You cannot do this. If you hand me over to the War God's temple, Beast Emperor definitely won't let you get away. Flame Blood shouted as he glared at Shifeng. Right now, he was pinning all his hopes on Beast Emperor's deterrence. He knew that, unless Shifeng gave up on turning him in, he no longer had any hope of escaping from the War God's temple. You should give up now if you think Beast Emperor will save you. If you really wish to survive, tell me the location of Star Moon Kingdom's evil god's temple. Shifeng said, chuckling. He remained wholly unperturbed by Flame Blood's threat. Right now, the cleric was still ignorant of Beast Emperor's overwhelming defeat. Remember. You have only 5 seconds to consider. After saying so, Shifeng began counting down from 5. Meanwhile, an incomparably ugly expression appeared on Flame Blood's face, his heart filled with misgivings. Chapter 1722, Beast Emperor's Rage. Inside the silent astrology room, Flame Blood glared at Shifeng hatefully. He never thought that Shifeng would make him such an offer. The Evil God's Temple was the foundation that Evil God's Temple members like Beast Emperor and himself relied on to develop themselves. If the Evil God's Temple they belonged to got destroyed, then all the progress they had made thus far would disappear. Hence, Beast Emperor had repeatedly warned him that under no circumstances should he reveal information about Star Moon Kingdom's Evil God's Temple. Black Flame. I can tell you with confidence that the Evil God's Temple's strength is far beyond your imagination. As long as the evil beast army breaks through the Star Moon Kingdom's defensive line, at that time, not to mention Stone Forest Town, even Zero Wing will turn into nothing. If you let me go, Beast Emperor might give up on invading Star Moon Kingdom and target other kingdoms instead. If you hand me over to the War God's Temple now, you'll only anger Beast Emperor further and force him to spend all his Evil God's Temple contribution points to hasten the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. Do you really wish to see your entire guild crumble together with me? Only if you let me go will Beast Emperor give up on invading Star Moon Kingdom. Otherwise, it is only a matter of time before the entire Star Moon Kingdom falls. Flame Blood repeatedly implored Shifeng to release him with indescribable anxiety on his face. Although Vice Temple Lord Capra was not a Tier 4 NPC, he was still a level 180, Tier 3 Great Mage, many times stronger than a level 80, Tier 4 NPC. Meanwhile, the intense pressure he gave off was enough to evoke deep despair in Flame Blood. At this moment, Flame Blood could only rely on the invasion of the Evil God's Temple to threaten Shifeng. NPCs led the invasion. The quantity and quality of evil beasts and evil demons participating in it were also far beyond what any single Evil God's Temple player could control. Current players simply had no chance of stopping the invasion. At this time, there were only 2 viable methods to do so. The first was to have Beast Emperor put a halt to the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. The second was to destroy Star Moon Kingdom's Evil God's Temple. The location of the Evil God's Temple was of utmost importance to Evil God's Temple members. Before Flame Blood was officially made into an Evil God Apostle, Beast Emperor had made him sign a contract preventing him from revealing any details about the temple. If he violated the terms of the contract, he would suffer a fate even worse than getting sent to the War God's Temple. Meanwhile, if he refused to reveal the location of Star Moon Kingdom's Evil God's Temple, then he had only one other method to stop Shifeng from turning him into the War God's Temple, and that was to have Beast Emperor stop the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. As the guild leader of Zero Wing, Shifeng should know which decision was better for his guild. Flame Blood refused to believe that Shifeng would abandon the entire Zero Wing just to get rid of him. Are these your last words? Shifeng chuckled as he looked at the desperation on Flame Blood's face. You should think things through clearly. As long as you are killed by the War God's Temple, all the progress you've made in this account will be lost. You'll also be able to start a new account only 1 month later. At that time, who knows how much time and effort you'll have to put in to return to the front lines. You'll miss out on plenty of opportunities. Currently, the elite members of the various large guilds were close to reaching level 50. In another month, many elite players would most likely have completed their Tier 2 promotion already, not to mention expert players. If Flame Blood had to restart from scratch, he would also miss out on the various resources and opportunities that could be obtained from exploring new maps. Unless the guild Flame Blood belonged to was willing to invest plenty of resources into him, or the cleric had heaven-defying luck, he would have extreme difficulty getting the current advantages he possessed in the future. As Shifeng said so, Capra began chanting an incantation. Meanwhile, based on Shifeng's words, Flame Blood could tell that Shifeng was determined to turn him in to the war god's temple. Crazy bastard. You really are insane. At this moment, Flame Blood could feel his mind breaking down. He even doubted Shifeng realized just how terrifying the evil god's temple's invasion was. He had never thought that Shifeng would actually go as far as to sacrifice Zero Wing just to take his life. Before Flame Blood could finish speaking, dozens of golden magic arrays appeared around him. A golden chain then shot out from each of the magic arrays. The chains pierced Flame Blood's body and bound his soul directly. Following which, Flame Blood's body began burning, his body transforming into a pile of ashes after just 2 seconds. The cleric's immortal soul was destroyed as well and completely disappeared from God's domain. Sure enough, he refused to speak. Shifeng could not help but sigh as he watched Flame Blood disappearing. He did not believe that Flame Blood refused to reveal the evil god's temple's location out of loyalty. There was an 80% chance that Beast Emperor had anticipated such a situation and made preparations. However, this outcome was within Shifeng's expectations. The evil god's temple was the foundation of evil god's temple members. Without the evil god's temple, Beast Emperor would lose the authority he had in Starmoon Kingdom. He naturally wouldn't let his minions reveal the location of the evil god's temple so easily. System, congratulations. You have captured an evil god apostle. Rewarding 12,000 War God's Temple merit points. Reputation with the War God's Temple increased by 200 points, 200 million EXP, 20 free mastery points, and 2 legacy skill points. 12,000 merit points? Shifeng was a little surprised when he read the system notification. He was only awarded 10,000 merit points the first time he captured an evil god apostle. He actually received 2,000 more points than the previous time. However, he had quickly discovered that, while the merit points he obtained had increased, the free mastery points and legacy skill points awarded had decreased by a significant margin. Previously, he had gotten 50 free mastery points and 5 legacy skill points. Now, he had received only 40% of the previous amounts. Compared to obtaining an additional 2,000 merit points, he would rather have the 30 free mastery points and 3 legacy skill points. Meanwhile, after Flame Blood's permanent disappearance from God's domain, Beast Emperor, who was currently controlling his evil demon army from the evil god's branch temple at Ancient Rock City, received a system notification informing him about it. Black Flame. Beast Emperor bellowed, his expression twisting. Since you dare destroy my path to promotion, I'll have your Zero Wing go down with me as well. He was granted only 5 evil god apostle slots. Now that he had permanently lost 2 of them, he would have a much more difficult time developing himself further. At this moment, the man standing beside Beast Emperor spoke up. Boss, Black Flame is simply too arrogant. Why don't I mobilize my evil beast and evil demon armies in the Purple Thorns Kingdom and have them destroy Zero Wings Town at the Primordial Divine Ruin? That'll teach Black Flame a good lesson. This man had a tough appearance and was clad in silver scale armor. Unlike other evil god apostles, this man did not wrap himself in bandages. Instead, like Beast Emperor, he did nothing to hide his skin tone. Meanwhile, if one were to use an advanced identification skill on this man, one would discover that not only was he a level 52 berserker, but he was even in possession of the Tier 2 hidden class Savage Warrior. No. That town is still in its protection period right now. Although the NPC guards there aren't as high-leveled as the NPC guards available inside a kingdom, they are still level 100 NPCs. There are also 20 tier 3 NPCs. Even 10 level 80 mythic ranked evil beasts wouldn't be enough to break the town, Beast Emperor said, shaking his head. What we need to do for now is wait. Based on the information Blackwater sent me, the town's protection period is only 3 days. During these 3 days, properly prepare yourself, Wind. Once the town's protection period is over, we'll attack. Boss, rest assured. I guarantee that Zero Wings Town will be flattened as soon as its protection period is over. The silver-armored man named Wind Hunter said with a confident smile on his face. Beast Emperor nodded in response to Wind Hunter's words. He had a lot of confidence in the man before him. Wind Hunter was not only his closest confidant but also the first person he had turned into an evil god apostle. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Star Moon Kingdom wasn't Beast Emperor's main headquarters, which was actually the Purple Thorns Kingdom. Wind Hunter had been operating in the Purple Thorns Kingdom for a very long time already, building up a foundation for himself that simply wasn't something newly minted evil god apostles like Abandoned Wave and Flame Blood could hope to compare to. Meanwhile, back inside the astrology room in the War God's Temple, Shifeng had realigned his thoughts. Although he had failed to obtain the location of Star Moon Kingdom's Evil God's Temple, he still managed to garner some information regarding the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom, which was the fact that Beast Emperor first needed to have enough Evil God's Temple contribution points to advance the invasion. Without sufficient contribution points, the invasion would have no way of breaking through the kingdom's defensive line. To Shifeng, this was undoubtedly good news. At the very least, he would not have to worry about the invasion progressing into the kingdom anytime soon. After all, Beast Emperor should have spent a lot of his contribution points on the previous battle at the Primordial Divine Ruin. Shifeng refused to believe that Beast Emperor had managed to get a Tier 4 NPC to take action for free. With this knowledge in mind, what he needed to do now was strengthen himself as quickly as possible and find the location of the Evil God's Temple. Following which, Shifeng approached Capra and asked, Lord Capra, I have an Evil God's Eye here. May I know if the War God's Temple is able to repair it for me? Chapter 1723, Complete Evil God's Eye. An Evil God's Eye? A hint of shock flashed across Capra's wizened face as he stared at Shifeng. Clearly excited, he asked, Did you really obtain an Evil God's Eye? Seeing the excitement and passion on Capra's face, Shifeng retrieved dark gray, runic crystal ball from his bag. As the crystal ball appeared in the room, it began to leak small traces of evil energy. This crystal ball was none other than the Evil God's Eye that he had obtained after destroying the Evil God's sealing magic array. The moment Shifeng revealed the Evil God's Eye, Capra's gaze sharpened as he examined the crystal ball. If Shifeng hadn't known that good-aligned NPCs wouldn't steal from players, he wouldn't have doubted that Capra would have snatched the Evil God's Eye from him without hesitation. It's actually real. Capra became even more excited after a detailed inspection of the item. He then shifted his gaze back to Shifeng and said, Although this Evil God's Eye has been damaged, it is still very valuable. It's also the material I've been searching for. If you are willing to sell this Evil God's Eye to me, I will offer you this elemental crown and 5,000 merit points. Capra grinned as he retrieved a crown studded with 7 resplendent gemstones. Shifeng could feel the mana around him grow restless the moment the crown appeared in the room. A fragmented legendary item? Shifeng could not help but gasp when he saw the elemental crown. He had never thought that Capra would be so generous. If he obtained the elemental crown now, he could instantly transform one of Zero Wings' members into a peak expert. Moreover, Capra had also offered an additional 5,000 merit points. That was nearly the price of an epic item. Of course, you can choose to repair the Evil God's Eye. However, doing so will be incredibly expensive. In addition to 15,000 merit points, you'll need 100 mana stones and 3 units of 7 luminaries crystal. Shifeng was inwardly astonished. He hadn't expected the repair costs for this item to be so exorbitant. Generally, players could only obtain mana stones from raiding team dungeons, but even 100-man Hell mode team dungeons had very low drop rates. As for the 7 luminaries crystals, it was likely that not a single guild had even 1 unit at this stage of the game. You can take your time to consider your options. There is no need to make a decision now, Capra said, chuckling. Lord Capra, I've already decided. I want to repair the evil god's eye, Shifeng said, determined. His desire for fragmented legendary items was intense right now, especially for fragmented legendary items that were suited for magical classes. If he gave the elemental crown to one of Zero Wing's magical class experts, that expert's firepower would rise to a whole new level. However, the evil god's eye would help the guild as a whole far more than the elemental crown. Although miniature worlds only produced a small number of resources, the power ore they produced was incomparably valuable. Normally, the power ore could only be acquired from unstable otherworlds. Moreover, the miniature world was far rarer and more valuable than a fragmented legendary item. Many first-rate guilds in the past had even been willing to trade over a dozen fragmented legendary items for a single miniature world. Hence, the wisest decision for Shifeng was to repair the evil god's eye. How unfortunate. Capra sighed before regaining his usual calm. He then looked at Shifeng and said, hand over the materials, then. If you don't have them ready, you can go collect them. You can find me again once you have the required materials. Shifeng nodded in response. He then left the war god's temple and rushed to the candlelight trading firm. Others might struggle to gather 100 mana stones and 3 units of 7 luminaries crystal, but the task wasn't difficult for Shifeng in the least. With the Philosopher's Stone, he could synthesize the 2 items from magic crystals and 7 luminary shards. Following which, Shifeng transformed 5,000 magic crystals and 100 plus 7 luminary shards, which had been left over from the 4 towers of elements construction, into 100 mana stones and 2 7 luminaries crystals. He then hurried back to meet with Capra. When Capra saw that Shifeng had the required materials, he gave the swordsman a serious look before asking, do you really wish to repair the evil god's eye? System, repairing the evil god's eye will cost 15,000 merit points. As you have 3,700 war god's temple reputation points, you can pay 20% of the merit points with coins. Do you wish to pay with coins? System, based on the system's analysis of the current market, each merit point is worth 2 gold, 10 silver. Do you wish to proceed? Yes. Shifeng answered without hesitation. He currently had over 12,000 merit points. If he paid 3,000 merit points with coins, he would have just enough merit points to repair the evil god's eye. Instantly, 6,300 gold vanished from Shifeng's bag. After Capra received the materials, he began to chant an incantation and write line after line of divine runes. The ambient mana and Capra's runes then gradually flowed into the evil god's eye, which hovered before the vice-temple lord. As this process continued, Shifeng could see the runes on the surface of the evil god's eye sharpen. The density of the evil energy the dark gray crystal ball radiated also increased. When every mana stone and 7 luminaries crystal had merged with the evil god's eye, the runes on the orb released a dazzling, gray glow. As he watched the dark gray crystal ball, Shifeng could feel a dangerously malicious intent radiating from it. At this point, the evil god's eye stopped leaking evil energy. Now, it merely looked like a crystal decorated with mysterious runes. Alright, I've repaired the evil god's eye. Hopefully, you can utilize it properly. Make sure that you don't let those from the evil god's temple find out that you have it. Otherwise, they'll use everything in their power to destroy you, Capra warned as he reluctantly handed the evil god's eye back to Shifeng. When Shifeng received the evil god's eye, he felt an immense weight in his hands. Rather than an ordinary crystal, he felt as if he had just received a miniature mountain. If he weren't a Tier 2 player with over 1,500 points in his strength, he might not even be able to carry the fist-sized crystal ball. It's so heavy. So, this is the intact evil god's eye? As he held the evil god's eye, Shifeng inspected the item's attribute panel. Evil god's eye, fragmented legendary rank item. This item had been created by the evil god for the specific purpose of opening a path through the world's barrier. The evil god's eye contains a sealed miniature world, and can be used as a conduit to transfer the miniature world's power to the outside world. The evil god's eye also grants its holder sovereignty over the miniature world within. Additional skill 1-. World's power can be used as a magic array's power source, improving the magic array's effects by a maximum of 120%. Cooldown 48 hours. Additional skill 2-. Teleportation pathway opens a pathway to the sealed miniature world. The pathway lasts for 10 minutes. Cooldown 96 hours. Amazing. Shifeng was utterly dumbfounded after inspecting the intact evil god's eye. He finally understood why the various superpowers in the past had valued miniature worlds to such an extreme. As Shifeng quietly admired the evil god's eye, Aqua Rose contacted him. Guild leader, Melancholic Smile has gathered the materials you require. I have also gathered the architects you've requested in Zero Wing City, Aqua Rose reported. Alright, I'll head over right away. Shifeng could not help but smile when he heard Aqua Rose's words. With this, Zero Wing would soon have a second stone forest town. Only this time, it was in a neutral map. Chapter 1724, Power of the Sacred Sword. Chapter 1724, Power of the Sacred Sword. After Shifeng disconnected the call, he left the War God's Temple and used a guild transfer scroll to teleport to Zero Wing City. He then used the Four Towers of Elements teleportation function to travel to the Orc Empire, making his way towards the primordial divine ruin. There are still evil demons here? Currently, Shifeng wore his black cloak, keeping his identity hidden. As he approached the wilderness near the primordial divine ruin, he frowned at what he saw. He spotted level 70+ evil demons and evil beasts wandering on the grassy plain before him. There were easily over 5,000 monsters, which were even stronger than Beast Emperor's evil beasts and evil demons that Zero Wing had recently fought. Zero Wing's new town had recently been constructed, so he had yet to set up a guild residence teleportation magic array in the town's residence. Hence, he had rushed towards the primordial divine ruin to complete the town's handover procedures and set up the teleportation array. Fellow friend, I take it that you haven't visited the Orc Empire recently, huh? A level 49 male ranger in dark blue leather armor, who had been passing by, approached Shifeng and asked when he noticed the swordsman's frown. The youth then smiled and continued, Zero Wing fought a massive battle against Beast Emperor's evil beast and evil demon armies just some time ago. Although Beast Emperor was defeated and eventually forced to retreat, he didn't give up on his mission to keep Zero Wing from visiting the ruin. On the contrary, he sent a massive group of stronger evil beasts and evil demons from ancient Rock City to surround the primordial divine ruin. Now, the only way to get to the ruin is to go through the checkpoint ahead. Checkpoint? Shifeng asked curiously. That's right. It seems Beast Emperor wants to prevent Zero Wing's members from sneaking into the ruin by hiding their identities. Unless players enter via the checkpoint, the evil beasts and demons will attack them, the ranger youth said, nodding. I'd advise against trying to barge through just to save time. Those evil beasts and evil demons are extremely powerful. Some players, who had been displeased with the new setup, tried to head to the ruin without passing through the checkpoint. In the end, the 100-man team was quickly destroyed. To be honest, there's no need to be in such a hurry anyway. Look, the checkpoint's queue is moving relatively quickly. After all, it's just there to determine whether or not players are from Zero Wing. It took us quite a bit of time and effort to get this far. A few more minutes won't really make a huge difference. They're checking for Zero Wing members? Shifeng muttered as he looked towards where the ranger youth had pointed. That's right. I don't know what Zero Wing did, but it seems that the guild really infuriated Beast Emperor. He's already announced that he intends to fight Zero Wing to the bitter end, the ranger youth said, nodding. So, he made this checkpoint for that purpose. Not only has Beast Emperor stationed his subordinates at the checkpoint, but there are also plenty of powerful evil demons there. I see, Shifeng muttered. He then walked straight towards Beast Emperor's checkpoint. At the end of the day, evil demons were monsters. As long as players wore a black cloak, evil demons couldn't determine their identities. However, players could. As long as Beast Emperor's subordinates forced passing players to remove their black cloaks, they could determine the players' identities. Although Zero Wing's members could avoid discovery by hiding their guild emblems, doing so would seem like the guild's players were afraid of Beast Emperor. Fellow friend, where are you going? That's not where the end of the line starts, the ranger youth called out as he watched Shifeng walk straight towards the checkpoint. If you don't follow the rules and try to skip the queue, they'll definitely kill you. It's fine. I'm the Zero Wing member they're looking for, Shifeng casually replied as he waved a hand. As Shifeng finished his statement, he accelerated and vanished. The Zero Wing member? Shifeng's reply dumbfounded both the ranger youth and his companions. What was going on? One of Zero Wing's members actually dared to rush towards Beast Emperor's checkpoint. Moreover, that member approached the checkpoint by himself. Didn't the swordsman realize that hundreds of evil demons guarded the checkpoint? Beast Emperor had even stationed a mythic-ranked evil demon there. Such a force would even annihilate a 100-man expert team in the blink of an eye. When the ranger youth and his companions finally recovered from their daze, they chased after Shifeng to stop his insane actions. They were all independent players, and in a fight between Beast Emperor and Zero Wing, they were strong supporters of the guild. Not only was Beast Emperor's attitude overbearing, but he was also an evil god's temple member who saw players as potential sacrifices. On the surface, they lacked the courage to condemn Beast Emperor's actions, but inwardly, they hated him to the bone. However, the ranger youth and his companions were simply too slow to catch up to Shifeng. After a few seconds of running, Shifeng had already reached the checkpoint and had been discovered by Beast Emperor's subordinates. Who are you? Don't you realize that this is a checkpoint? Everyone must queue up and remove their black cloaks to pass through, a level 50 shield warrior in silvery gray armor shouted at Shifeng. Although Zero Wing had defeated Beast Emperor's army once before, the Orc Empire was still the evil god's temple's territory. As Beast Emperor's subordinates, even Super Guild's members had to treat them with respect. Even a peak expert would have to lower their head in the Orc Empire. Me? Smiling leisurely, Shifeng responded, I'm one of the people you are looking for. Saying so, Shifeng took a step forward. With his extraordinary attributes, the swordsman arrived before the level 50 shield warrior in an instant. He then unsheathed Killing Ray and swung it. Hua! A blue flash bloomed before the shield warrior. The level 50 shield warrior immediately collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Even after dying, he hadn't reacted to what had just happened. When the shield warrior's corpse hit the ground, a level 45 fine gold ranked armor piece dropped beside him. He died? Who is that? He's so powerful. Has that swordsman lost his mind? I think I heard that guy mention that he's a member of Zero Wing. The thousands of players in the queue were dumbfounded by what had just happened. They couldn't believe their eyes. Whether or not Shifeng had told the truth about being from Zero Wing, the fact that he had killed a level 50 shield warrior with a single slash was incredibly shocking. A level 50 shield warrior, even at tier 1, would have close to 50,000 HP. Shield warriors also had far more defense than other classes. They had passive skills that reduced incoming damage as well. Even a great lord of the same level couldn't instant kill such a shield warrior, yet Shifeng had accomplished exactly that. Beast Emperor's 13 other subordinates a short distance away were similarly stupefied. They had never expected someone to be foolish enough to attack the checkpoint alone. Hundreds of evil demons surrounded the checkpoint, including a level 80 mythic evil demon. Even peak experts would be utterly powerless against a mythic evil demon. At the very minimum, players would need a team of 1,000 experts to pin one down. Bastard! Beast Emperor's subordinates bellowed in rage when they noticed that Shifeng had actually picked up their companion's equipment and stored it. They immediately unsheathed their weapons and charged at the offending swordsman. In their opinion, Shifeng must have used some sort of skill to instant kill their shield warrior companion, and such powerful skills had very long cooldowns. Shifeng should not be able to use it again for the next several minutes. Every one of the dozen or so subordinates at the checkpoint was a level 50 expert. Moreover, the dead shield warrior only ranked among the lower half of their group in terms of strength and equipment. Even if they weren't a match for Shifeng, they could still involve the nearby evil demons. However, when only 15 yards separated Shifeng and the 5 melee experts, who led the charge, Shifeng abruptly disappeared. By the time the 5 melee experts realized Shifeng was gone, he reappeared right in front of them. No! Finding Shifeng before them so suddenly, the 5 melee experts panicked, trying to focus on full defense. But Zero Wing's top swordsman didn't give them the opportunity to defend themselves as he brandished Killing Ray. Shadow Blade. Suddenly, 10 sword lights, 1 blue and 9 black, sliced at the 5 melee experts before they could react. The experts' HP plummeted rapidly, reaching 0 in a fraction of a second. All 5 melee experts then hit the ground simultaneously. Wait! That's Shadow Blade. He's Black Flame, Zero Wing's guild leader. Chapter 1725, Fighting a Mythic with Brute Force. Chapter 1725, Fighting a Mythic with Brute Force. Shadow Blade? Is he really the Sword King? Surprise overcame the thousands of players in line for Beast Emperor's checkpoint when they saw the 10 sword lights and the 5 melee players. Everyone here knew of Black Flame, especially after Zero Wing's battle with Heaven's Burial at Stone Forest Town. The man was even capable of taking on war weapons. During the battle with Blackwater at the Primordial Divine Ruin, Black Flame had even slain Singular Burial, Heaven's Burial's original guild leader, with one attack. Black Flame's shocking battle records had become a hot topic for players in the various kingdoms and empires neighboring the Orc Empire long ago. Due to Black Flame's popularity, many players had attempted to analyze why he was so powerful. These players had even publicly exposed some of Black Flame's skills. Among Black Flame's various skills, Shadow Blade was considered one of the man's trademark moves because it wasn't a skill of a Tier 2 Swordmaster. Based on everyone's deduction, it was most likely a unique skill of a hidden class. Shifeng's summoning of 9 additional attacks with a single swing of his sword was likely a result of his Shadow Blade skill. Including the fact that Shifeng had declared himself as a member of Zero Wing, there was a very high possibility that Shifeng was Black Flame. As they realized this, everyone watching got goosebumps. Black Flame had defeated Beast Emperor's army once before, and his control of summoned creatures had been astounding. He was definitely one of God's domain's mythical characters. They never expected to have a chance to meet or interact with this swordsman. Now, not only did they get to see Black Flame in person, but they also got to watch him attack Beast Emperor's checkpoint. They were going to watch a historic moment happen right before their very eyes. Why wouldn't they be excited? Black Flame? What? Why are we so unlucky? Beast Emperor's subordinates, who had planned to charge at Shifeng, slid to a stop as they stared at their adversary. All of their prior confidence and rage disappeared. Now, only fear flashed in their eyes. Although they were expert players and wore excellent equipment, they did not think, even for a second, that they could contend with Shifeng. Moreover, they had all watched this man's battle videos. He could even slay Tier 2 experts as easily as slicing vegetables, let alone Tier 1 players like themselves. They could only hope to buy as much time as possible for the evil demons to arrive and deal with Shifeng. There were hundreds of evil demons nearby, the weakest of which was a level 70 lord, while the strongest was a level 80 mythic ranked evil demon. Even if Shifeng were more powerful, there was no way he could solo a level 80 mythic evil demon. Not gonna attack? Shifeng smiled as he swept a glance across Beast Emperor's remaining 8 subordinates. Then, I guess it's my turn. Saying so, Shifeng vanished, only leaving behind an afterimage. In the blink of an eye, Shifeng reappeared roughly 10 yards away from a level 50 summoner. Before this summoner could cast a spell, a blue flash devoured him. Chop! The summoner's HP, which had been over 34,000, hit 0 instantly. The summoner's vision then darkened as his body collapsed, a pair of level 45 dark gold ranked gloves dropping beside his corpse. After Shifeng unhurriedly pocketed the pair of gloves, he made his way to the level 50 ranger nearby. Although the level 50 ranger had reacted by activating his backward leap skill, Shifeng had swung Killing Ray before the skill could take effect. Thundering Flash. One of the 4 streaks of lightning that emerged from the sacred sword devoured the ranger, who turned into a pile of ash and left behind a pair of pants. The other 3 streaks of lightning assaulted 3 other subordinates. Aside from the one elementalist that activated his life-saving skill in time, the lightning tore the life from the cleric and oracle, robbing them of all of their HPs. As if space itself had frozen, silence dominated Shifeng's surroundings. Crap. Is he even a human? Aren't Thundering Flash's 4 strikes supposed to move in the same direction? Is this a joke? Thundering Flash can actually be used like this? As the thousands of players at the checkpoint watched the fight, their jaws hit the ground as Shifeng slew 3 of Beast Emperor's subordinates, who had been fairly spread out, with Thundering Flash. Although Thundering Flash was a rare skill, some players had managed to learn it. It was undoubtedly one of the strongest AoE skills for swordsmen during the early stages of the game, so quite a few players were familiar with the skill's details. Yet, Shifeng had just defied the skill's limitations, using it as 4 separate skills instead of 1. Moreover, all of his attacks had accurately struck his targets. This was simply unbelievable. What these players didn't know was that Shifeng had long since mastered his control over his skills. Since he had reached the Void Realm, he had a perfect grasp of his enemy's movements. Then, he used his arm and wrist to alter the lightning strike's trajectory as they left the tip of his sword. Normally, it should be impossible to alter the lightning strike's direction as the intervals between each strike's launch were extremely short, but by using his understanding of the realms of truth, he could make the impossible possible. Of course, the biggest reason he was able to pull off such a feat had to be Killing Ray's frightening attack speed. Otherwise, the most he'd be able to do was manipulate the trajectory of 3 of the 4 lightning strikes. Although he might be able to alter the last strike's trajectory, it wouldn't be very accurate. Some of the refinement realm experts present were utterly captivated by Shifeng's technique. They realized what Shifeng had just accomplished, albeit barely. However, although they knew the principle behind the technique Shifeng had used, they also understood how nearly impossible the technique was to execute. After watching Shifeng execute 4 more of their companions with so little effort, Beast Emperor's remaining 4 subordinates were utterly terror-stricken as they stared at this swordsman. Although they had already known Shifeng was powerful, they hadn't thought that he was this powerful. Shifeng's strength was beyond their comprehension. This swordsman from Zero Wing could slaughter them without trouble even if he had the same basic attributes as they did. As the 4 were about to fall to their despair, however, the evil demons finally arrived. Seeing that their demonic reinforcements were only 40 yards away, the 4 survivors breathed a deep sigh of relief. A little confidence turned to their gazes as they looked back at Shifeng. They had reacted in such a way because, among the evil demons rushing to their aid, one was a level 80 mythic evil demon. Black Flame, let's see how arrogant you'll be now, the elementalist, who had sealed himself in a coffin of ice, revealed a gleeful expression. Suddenly, the 5-meter-tall mythic evil demon pounced at Shifeng and swung its right claw, which was shrouded in dark gray fog, at Shifeng's head, tearing space as the claw passed. A mythic evil demon? Glancing at the approaching mythic evil demon, Shifeng activated Heavenly Dragon's power, his strength, agility, defense, and HP skyrocketing. Shifeng then countered the incoming claw with a slash from Killing Ray. Lightning Slash. Killing Ray released a golden glow as it moved towards the evil demon's claw. The sacred sword sliced the space before it like a piece of paper, a pitch-black tear appearing before Shifeng. As this tear continued to extend away from its creator before a massive lightning bolt shot through it. In an instant, this lightning bolt stretched 80 yards away from Shifeng. Before anyone had realized it, Killing Ray had met the mythic evil demon's claw. Boom! Following the sound of an explosion, an intense shockwave shook its surroundings as it spread out from its epicenter. Even the players standing over 100 yards away felt the shockwave's severity. To everyone's surprise, the mythic-ranked evil demon actually took 3 steps back. Its right claw sported a deep cut, so deep that the evil demon's bone was exposed. Chapter 1726, World's Power. He pushed the evil demon back. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? No, that mythic evil demon actually slid backward. Everyone's heart pounded madly when they saw the mythic evil demon retreat by 3 steps. Without the help of war weapons, a Tier 4 mythic evil demon was unshakable to current players, yet without any help, Shifeng had forced the monster to step back. The watching players felt as if they had just watched an ant push back a ferocious lion. No matter how they looked at the situation, it had to be some kind of joke. Most importantly, Shifeng had actually injured the evil demon physically. Although he had only left a cut behind on the evil demon's claw and arm, it was astounding. It wasn't even possible to injure a mythic-ranked monster with a Tier 3 large-scale destruction spell, but Shifeng had done so by relying on his own strength. Even Beast Emperor's subordinates gaped in shock at the wound Shifeng had left on the mythic evil demon's claw, not to mention the thousands of spectators. The cut was so deep that it revealed bone. Moreover, faint arcs of golden electricity danced around the wound, causing further damage. The evil demon couldn't even move the claw since it had been subjected to a paralyzed state. Seeing this, the shreds of joy and confidence that had returned to Beast Emperor's reaming subordinates instantly vanished. A chilling sensation then assaulted their minds, making them shudder. When they looked at Shifeng now, they felt as if they were staring down a primordial beast, not some player. Shifeng's aura also felt more oppressive than it had before, stifling their breathing as they bathed in it. They no longer felt as if their lives rested in their own hands, but in Shifeng's instead. If Shifeng wished it, he could crush them with a thought. However, a mythic evil demon was still a mythic evil demon at the end of the day, and although one of its claws was temporarily paralyzed, its other claw didn't remain idle. The mythic evil demon immediately launched another attack with its uninjured claw. This time, however, Shifeng did not try to stop the attack. Instead, he activated the disintegration armor's disintegration field. Suddenly, a bluish-gray ripple tore away from Shifeng, enveloping the mythic evil demon and Beast Emperor's 4 remaining subordinates, and as it did, the 4 players and evil demon felt an immense pressure descend on them. Beast Emperor's 4 subordinates watched their basic attributes decrease by 40%, while the mythic evil demon's basic attributes fell by 15%. Following which, Shifeng executed Purgatory Pentaslash. One sword light after another flew at the mythic evil demon's claw. A few of the sword lights even merged right before reaching the claw. Boom! Although the mythic evil demon did not retreat in the slightest this time, its assault had halted. Sure enough, a mythic monster really is powerful. Despite being weakened, I still can't solo it yet. Shifeng sighed ruefully as he looked at the mythic evil demon before him. He had only overwhelmed the evil demon previously due to Lightning Slash's 330% strength increase, but even after merging some of his attacks, his strength was barely a match for the weakened evil demon. After this, aside from activating Twofold Berserk, he had no means of taking the mythic evil demon head-on. Obviously, Twofold Berserk wasn't viable for this situation. Twofold Berserk only had a 20-second duration, but even after being weakened, the mythic evil demon still had a maximum HP of 127,500,000. He'd be lucky to shave off 2% of the evil demon's HP in 20 seconds. Following which, Shifeng used Divine Steps, and 10 doppelgangers split away from his body. Now, rather than dance with the mythic evil demon, he avoided it. While doing so, Shifeng took a Tier 4 single-target attack magic scroll from his bag. It was one of the scrolls he had obtained after killing a mythic evil beast. Dark Destruction. After activating the scroll, Shifeng immediately used World's power on the magic array within it. Suddenly, pitch-black magic arrays started to manifest, and in an instant, 33 arrays had the evil demon completely surrounded. Before the mythic evil demon could flee, the arrays began to fire darkness spears, piercing the evil demon's body. The 33 magic arrays quickly transformed the mythic evil demon into a porcupine. The mythic-ranked evil demon's agonized screams were all anyone could hear. After another 2 seconds, every darkness spear in the evil demon's body exploded, instantly stealing over 8 million of the evil demon's HP. After the massive explosion, the mythic evil demon was in an incomparably miserable state. It was covered in wounds, steadily seeping fresh blood. Even a fool could see that the mythic evil demon suffered a heavily injured state. What destructive power! He actually injured a mythic-ranked evil demon so severely. Did he use a magic scroll containing a Tier 4 curse or Tier 5 spell? The spectating crowd could not help but gasp when they saw the injured evil demon. If they couldn't see that the mythic evil demon still had plenty of HP, they'd assume that it was on its last breath, about to keel over at any moment. Even Shifeng was surprised. He hadn't expected the Tier 4 magic scroll to become so destructive after empowering it with World's power. The power of dark destruction was stronger than even a Tier 4 single-target curse. Seeing that the mythic evil demon was heavily injured, Shifeng immediately removed Disintegration Field and summoned his personal guards, Anna and Kite. At this point, Anna had reached level 81, whereas Kite was level 79. The two NPCs' leveling speed was simply staggering. Once the mythic evil demon had become heavily injured, its basic attributes had fallen by 35%. Now, in terms of overall combat power, it was only slightly stronger than a level 80 Grand Lord. Meanwhile, after being summoned, Anna proceeded to summon her Golden Giant and 10 Rock Guardians. She then had the Rock Guardians form a magic array to suppress the mythic evil demon further. With this, the mythic evil demon only had 50% of its original basic attributes remaining. Now, even the Golden Giant could put up a fight against the mythic-ranked evil demon, not to mention Shifeng. With the Golden Giant serving as his MT, Shifeng focused on dealing damage. Phantom Kill. Flame Burst. Damages in the hundreds of thousands appeared, one after another, above the mythic evil demon's head. To the mythic evil demon, who only had a maximum HP of 75 million after being weakened, this was a considerable amount. Furthermore, Kite and Anna's damage kept up with Shifeng's. Although Lord and Great Lord ranked evil demons tried to intervene, the Rock Guardian's magic array kept them out of the fight. They could not hinder Shifeng and his minions in the slightest. Meanwhile, Beast Emperor's 4 remaining subordinates could only watch as their supposed savior rapidly lost HP. 80%. 60%. 20%. When the mythic evil demon's HP fell to 20% and was about to enter a berserk state, Anna reacted by casting Chains of Light. Not only did the spell negate the evil demon's berserk state, but it also weakened the monster even further. Without the boost from its berserk state, the mythic evil demon couldn't free itself from this one-sided beating, and its HP continued to fall. 20%. 10%. 5%. When the mythic evil demon only had 1% of its HP remaining, Shifeng activated Divine Providence. He then activated Instant Strike and appeared before the evil demon. Sword's Orbit. Suddenly, a series of blue stars bombarded the mythic evil demon, plundering its final strand of HP. As the mythic-ranked evil demon died, a golden flash enveloped Shifeng. He had finally risen from level 65 to level 66. At the same time, 3 crimson balls of light emerged from the evil demon's corpse and hit the ground. When the watching crowd outside of the magic array saw the mythic evil demon's motionless corpse, their minds went blank. Chapter 1727, Blockade Destroyed. After seeing the mythic evil demon fall, Beast Emperor's 4 remaining subordinates were overwhelmed by their fear and despair. Although they had expected this outcome after watching Shifeng and his personal guards suppress the mythic evil demon, they couldn't help but shudder after watching the monster actually collapse at the swordsman's feet. To God's domain's current major powers, Tier 4 monsters were still insurmountable. Even super guilds had to expend a lot of time and effort to prepare and ensure that they killed one. Yet, Shifeng had accomplished this feat by relying on his own power and his 2 personal guards. Normally, if someone told them about such a situation, they'd laugh, assuming that the player was joking, but after such an impossible feat had occurred before their very eyes, they had no choice but to believe it. Regret filled their hearts. Had they known that something like this would happen, they would never have volunteered to work at the checkpoint. They had assumed that inspecting players that entered the primordial divine ruin would be a relaxing, glorious task. After all, even players from the various superpowers would have to lower their heads before them. How often did anyone get to brag about that? Now, however, the only thing awaiting them was death. Before the 4 could even turn and flee, Kite had appeared and finished each of them with a single hit. In the meantime, Shifeng had arrived beside the mythic evil demon's corpse and collected the 3 items it had dropped. He then commanded Anna and Kite to kill the other evil demons outside of the magic array. Without the threat of the mythic evil demon, the level 70+ evil demons were easy pickings for the 2 personal guards. The fight with the remaining monsters had been so easy that Shifeng hadn't even needed to use another berserk skill after Heavenly Dragon's power had ended. He only needed to support his personal guards from the side. Whenever his personal guards' HPs fell below a certain point, Shifeng had simply activated the 7 Luminaries' Ring's life domain to recover their HP to full. For a time, Shifeng, Anna, and Kite slaughtered the hundreds of evil demons around them, further dumbfounding the spectating crowd. That was several hundred level 70+ evil demons they were talking about. Moreover, the weakest among them was a lord. Even an army of 10,000 elite players would have trouble against such a force, yet Anna and Kite ended these evil demons as if they were farming common monsters. So strong. Black Flame's personal guards are awesome. They should both be fine gold rank. I've seen fine gold personal guards before, so I am certain that fine gold personal guards are definitely not that powerful. I'm willing to bet that the female summoner is dark gold rank. I doubt even super guilds have dark gold personal guards. It would be great if I had a personal guard like that. I'd have such an easier time grinding and raiding bosses. Keep dreaming. Do you know how much secret silver personal guards are selling for? Nobody will even sell them for 2 or 3 epic items. If there's a fine gold or dark gold personal guard on the market, even super guilds will do everything they can to get their hands on them. Once the crowd of players snapped out of their daze, they turned to look at Anna and Kite, who stood beside Shifeng, with passionate gazes. They all felt a vicious jealousy tear at their hearts. The combat power Shifeng had displayed was indeed frightening. Even without a berserk skill, the man could go toe-to-toe with a great lord-ranked evil demon. Even experts like them dreamed of wielding that kind of power. However, compared to Shifeng's strength, Anna and Kite's combat power was monstrous. This was especially true for Anna. Many of the players present were experts, and quite a few of these experts usually commanded their guild's dungeon raids. Hence, they recognized the factors that contributed to Shifeng's victory over the mythic evil demon. The first factor was the Tier 4 magic scroll Shifeng had used to injure the mythic evil demon and significantly lower its combat power. Anna was the second factor. The Tier 3 golden giant Anna had summoned had played a vital role in tanking the mythic evil demon. Meanwhile, her summoned rock guardians had formed a magic array that had suppressed the mythic-ranked evil demon further. Without these 2 factors, Shifeng wouldn't have been able to defeat the mythic evil demon. After watching this battle, the spectating crowd realized how important personal guards truly were. Even if a player were weak, they could rise to prominence in God's domain as long as they had sufficiently strong personal guards. When the various adventurer team's members, in particular, saw Anna and Kite, they felt as if doors to an entirely new world had opened before them. Personal guards, huh? Send the battle video to the commander immediately. With this, our Blazing Owl Adventurer team will have a chance of becoming a top adventurer team in the future. The players from the various adventurer teams burst into action. Some players, who commanded their own adventurer teams, immediately ordered their members to do everything they could to find high-quality personal guards. Unlike large guilds, adventurer teams generally had very few members. As a result, these teams struggled when organizing dungeon raids. Large-sized adventurer teams, with over 1,000 members, might not face as much difficulty in this regard, but mid-sized adventurer teams like theirs, which only had several hundred members, even had trouble organizing raids for 50-man team dungeons. However, if they employed a capable personal guard, even a mysterious iron personal guard, it could help make up for the team's lack of manpower when raiding team dungeons. If they had a secret silver personal guard, they could even raid 100-man team dungeons. Then, they'd be able to obtain far better weapons and equipment for their adventurer team's members. These players now realized that personal guards played a crucial role in determining a mid-sized adventurer team's success. For a time, the various adventurer teams started a campaign to find powerful personal guards after watching Shi Feng's battle. As a result, personal guards' prices skyrocketed. Meanwhile, inside the Evil God's branch temple in ancient Rock City, Beast Emperor wore a gloomy expression as he stared at the magic water ball before him. How is this possible? As he read the report one of his subordinates had sent, he couldn't bring himself to believe its contents. He had dispatched over a dozen subordinates and hundreds of evil demons to operate his checkpoint, yet Shi Feng had killed everyone there. Even one of the only 2 remaining mythic evil demons had fallen to Shi Feng's blade. "Boss, why don't I lead some men to annihilate Zero Wing?" Wind Hunter suggested from beside Beast Emperor. "Although Zero Wing has set up a town near the primordial divine ruin, we can surround the town and prevent anyone from entering or leaving. If they summon another one of those divine magic dragons, we'll just pack up and run away. Once the dragon's duration ends, we can simply encircle the town again." "All right. Get it done. But as a precaution, you absolutely must not reveal yourself," Beast Emperor commanded with a nod. "Boss, rest assured, I'll make sure Zero Wing's town is nothing more than a pile of ruin once its protection period ends," Wind Hunter said, laughing. He then turned and left the Evil God's branch temple. Elsewhere, after Shi Feng had annihilated the evil demons at the checkpoint, he made his way toward the primordial divine ruin. Players crowded the ruin, and even though a massive battle had taken place right outside of it, these players chatted and laughed merrily. Some players even hawked their wares here. However, far more players wandered around outside of the town, which had recently been established near the ruin, than those within the primordial divine ruin itself. All of these players examined Zero Wing's new town with curiosity and anticipation. As everyone watched, Shi Feng rode his demonic flame tiger towards the town that had the protection of level 100 NPC adventurers. Chapter 1728, Silverwing Town. As Shi Feng set foot in the town, the patrolling NPCs didn't move to stop him. However, once he reached the town's guild residence, a middle-aged man in dark blue robes appeared before Shi Feng. The logo of a silver sword had been embroidered on the chest of this man's robe. This middle-aged man was one of the senior administrators from White River City's Adventurers Association. Although the man was only Tier 2, he had reached level 150. "Lord Protector, we have constructed your town according to your wishes. If there are no problems, please write its name on this town order," the NPC senior administrator said after approaching Shi Feng. "System, please name your town. If you fail to do so within 5 minutes, a name will be automatically generated." "A name, huh?" After Shi Feng accepted the town order and pondered for a short moment, he entered the name of his new town on the town order. Silverwing. Since there was already a Zero Wing city in Starmoon Kingdom, he couldn't name the town Zero Wing Town. Meanwhile, as this town developed as a neutral town, it would definitely become well known. Hence, to ensure that everyone knew that it belonged to Zero Wing, and to increase the guild's popularity, Shi Feng decided to name the town based on Zero Wing's guild emblem, the silver, 6-winged emblem. System, naming successful. Your town is now Silverwing Town. Once Shifeng named his new town, the nearby players watching received a system notification. System, you have discovered Silverwing Town. When the surrounding players tried to inspect the town, a window popped up, stating that the town belonged to Zero Wing and wasn't yet open to the public. Since the town wasn't open to the public, the town's NPC guards would kill any outsider that ventured too close. Sure enough, it really is Zero Wing's town. Zero Wing is set for life. With their town right next to the primordial divine ruin, any guild or player that wants to explore the ruin will likely have to gather in Silverwing Town. Zero Wing's development will definitely soar now. I know, right? Aside from Silverwing Town, there isn't anywhere to rest near the primordial divine ruin. Zero Wing will make a fortune on the repair fees alone. For a time, the various large guilds and adventurer teams were truly jealous of Zero Wing. Many guilds had already shifted the focus of their development to neutral maps, and as a result, neutral towns had become astronomically valuable. This was even more true for a neutral town beside a primordial divine ruin. Silverwing Town's value could likely rival that of 4 or more ordinary neutral towns. Meanwhile, the scouts the various large guilds and adventurer teams had stationed to watch the new town beside the ruin immediately reported the latest development to their superiors. Silverwing Town. Cuttlefish, one of Crimson Emperor's elders, caressed his white beard as he looked at Silverwing Town from a short distance away. Uncle Cuttlefish, many guilds are trying to partner with Zero Wing right now. Should we send someone to contact the guild as well? A level 51, Tier 2 Berserker beside Cuttlefish asked. The Berserker wore dark red armor and carried a double-edged battle axe. No, let's wait for a while, Cuttlefish said, shaking his head. Although Zero Wing has built a town beside the primordial divine ruin, Beast Emperor isn't someone to be taken lightly. Moreover, this is a neutral map. There is simply too much profit involved with Silverwing Town. Even if Beast Emperor doesn't make a move, I doubt that the other superpowers will sit still. Whether or not Zero Wing can keep its town after the protection period is uncertain. Hearing Cuttlefish's thoughts, realization dawned on the Tier 2 Berserker. At the same time, a hint of pity also surfaced in his gaze as he looked at Silverwing Town. God's domain was a cruel place. In God's domain, holding a treasure without the power to protect it was a sin. Although Zero Wing had shown the world its extraordinary strength, this kind of power was short-lived. Powerful tools couldn't be used indefinitely. Like Zero Wing, many such guilds had risen in the virtual gaming world in the past, and they had been incredibly successful, developing rapidly by using various means and resources. Unfortunately, due to their lack of a sturdy foundation, they had become a target for stronger forces, struck down before they could become a superpower. Whether or not Zero Wing protected Silverwing Town could be considered a test for the guild. Meanwhile, after Shifeng entered Silverwing Town's guild residence, he began to set up the guild residence teleportation magic array. Once he finished and made teleportation to Silverwing Town via guild transfer scrolls possible, he instructed Aqua Rose to bring all of the architects he had requested and a large number of elite members to the town. When the group emerged from the guild residence, seeing Silverwing Town for the first time, they could not help but grow excited, especially the elite members. With Silverwing Town, they'd have a much easier time getting into the primordial divine ruin. After all, the town was so close to the ruin. Their guild would have a massive advantage over the other powers when contesting over entry slots. Even elite members like them might get the chance to enter the ruin, not to mention the guild's expert players. If they were lucky, they might even get to visit Primordial City. Guild leader, everyone's here. We can begin constructing the hotels and smithies right away, Aqua Rose excitedly reported as she walked up to Shifeng. Although Zero Wing had earned quite a lot of coins through Zero Wing City, coins were only coins. A lot of coins didn't necessarily equate a lot of resources. Furthermore, Zero Wing's range of influence was much smaller than first-rate guilds and superpowers. This greatly limited the guild's ability to collect and purchase resources. However, Zero Wing now had Silverwing Town. With a treasure trove of resources like the primordial divine ruin right beside the town, Zero Wing would have a much easier time acquiring the resources it needed. Most importantly, players had long since passed the Stoneclaw Mountains level range. As a result, Stone Forest Town's popularity had started to wane. Nowadays, Stone Forest Town's development was entirely reliant on its battle arena and advanced auction house. Its ability to collect resources was growing weaker. The rise of Silverwing Town just so happens to make up for this flaw. Good. Shifeng nodded approvingly. Following which, Shifeng arranged the basic and intermediate architects to start constructing the town's hotels and smithies. As for the advanced architects, he had them stay behind. As the advanced architects wondered what special task Shifeng had in store for them, Shifeng revealed the magic tower design he had obtained from the lost town in the Boneless Land. Seeing the design, the eyes of the advanced architects glowed with excitement and surprise. Even Aqua Rose was dazed when she saw the design. She was very familiar with the magic tower's power. It was thanks to the magic tower that Stone Forest Town had developed to its current state. However, the magic tower design was a consumable, and each design only allowed players to build 5 magic towers. Unfortunately, Zero Wing had expended all 5 of its last design's uses. Although they had done their best to find another magic tower design, their search hadn't borne fruit thus far. Even the various super guilds struggled to find one for themselves, yet Shifeng had just revealed a new magic tower design. Your task this time is to complete the magic tower's foundations. I'll handle the core manufacturing personally, Shifeng said as he glanced at the dozens of advanced architects before him. Guild leader, may I know how many magic towers we'll be building in Silverwing Town? An advanced architect asked curiously. We're building all 5. Shifeng said. The players before Shifeng gasped, and even Aqua Rose stared at her guild leader with wide eyes. These were magic towers they were talking about. Even one magic tower was enough to forge a popular battle arena. They had only constructed 3 magic towers in Stone Forest Town to protect the town from invasion. Spending a full magic tower design on Silverwing Town was simply extravagant. Chapter 1729, Building Up Silverwing Town. Guild leader, both the battle arenas in Stone Forest Town and Zero Wing City are crowded with players right now. If we split some of these magic towers to our other locations, we'll definitely increase our profit margins from both battle arenas. Silverwing Town is only basic rank right now. It can only accommodate so many players at a time. It wouldn't be wise to build all 5 magic towers here, Aqua Rose advised. Moreover, concentrating all of our resources in a single location won't be good for the guild's development. If we share some with the branch guild in the Black Dragon Empire, developing Snow's side will proceed far more smoothly. Zero Wing was the number 1 guild in Starmoon Kingdom, but that wasn't the case in the Black Dragon Empire. Not only did the empire have plenty of large guilds, but it also had more than enough first-rate guilds. The competition between guilds in the empire was intense. Although large-scale guild wars weren't frequent, small skirmishes involving teams of hundreds occurred almost daily. If Zero Wing wished to increase its influence in the empire, it would have to get involved in even more skirmishes. Meanwhile, this would no doubt increase the guild's expenditure. After fighting in multiple and consecutive large-scale wars, Zero Wing had exhausted most of its savings. Unlike other kingdoms and empires' various large guilds, Zero Wing no longer had a reserve of funds and resources it could rely on to develop steadily. The situation in the Black Dragon Empire was much more stable than in Starmoon Kingdom. Aside from small skirmishes, the guilds in the empire didn't really encounter a lot of problems in their development. As a result, guilds there developed much quicker than the guilds in Starmoon Kingdom. The Empire's guild players had much higher equipment level and quality than that of Starmoon Kingdom's guild players. Many of the Empire's guild experts had also begun challenging their Tier 2 promotion quests. In fact, the first-rate guilds there had even started raiding level 50 super large-scale team dungeons. There's no need for that right now. Silverwing Town takes precedence over everything. When we have enough resources, try to build as many defense turrets in the town as possible, Shifeng said, shaking his head. While Silverwing Town has already been established, it's still uncertain if Zero Wing can actually defend it. Although there were plenty of resources available in the Black Dragon Empire, the Orc Empire's primordial divine ruin was much more important. It might be a different story if the Orc Empire's primordial divine ruin was an ordinary one, but housing a passage to Primordial City increased its value by several times. Stone Forest Town couldn't compare to Silverwing Town's potential value. Previously, Stone Forest Town had only managed to attract so many players because the Stoneclaw Mountains turned into a regional dungeon. After players reached level 50, the Stoneclaw Mountains weren't accessible to them. However, a primordial divine ruin that was connected to Primordial City would never fall behind the times. Even superpowers had gone all out to monopolize primordial divine ruins with a pathway to Primordial City. This was because Primordial City offered quite a bit of help to players as they challenged their promotion quests. Although players received less help from Primordial City as they reached higher tiers, as long as the city was even the slightest bit helpful, it was still extremely valuable. The various superpowers had yet to realize the true value of Primordial City. They merely treated it as a source of combat techniques and some other valuable resources. Hence, they still held a wait-and-see attitude in regard to Silverwing Town. Once they discovered Primordial City's true value, however, they would do everything they could to obtain Silverwing Town. Beast Emperor would be the least of Zero Wing's worries. Zero Wing needed to strengthen Silverwing Town to the best of its abilities. Aqua Rose gawked at Shifeng's reply. She felt that Shifeng was simply insane. Not only did he want to build 5 magic towers in Silverwing Town, but he even planned on constructing a large number of defense turrets. Was he trying to turn Silverwing Town into a fortress? If the other guild upper echelons found out, they would definitely curse Shifeng's wasteful behavior. Seeing as Shifeng had no intention of changing his mind, Aqua Rose gave up on persuading him and started designating work for the basic and intermediate architects. As Silverwing Town had just recently been built, aside from some basic constructions and a few wandering NPCs, the town had practically nothing in it. Fortunately, Aqua Rose had brought over 600 basic and intermediate architects with her this time, and since they only had to build basic constructions, their building speed was extremely fast. The players observing Silverwing Town from afar quickly discovered the emergence of bars, hotels, smithies, restaurants, and shops in the town's empty spaces one after another. When they saw the smithies in the town, their eyes glowed with excitement. Although they could obtain a lot of resources and contribution points from fighting in the Orc Empire, fighting the Empire's monsters put an unprecedented burden on their weapons and equipment. At most, their weapons could last through one day of grinding. Despite the Orc Empire being such a large map, guilds had only captured 4 towns thus far. Moreover, all 4 of the guild towns were in the Empire's outer area. If they wanted a fruitful harvest, they needed to grind in the neutral map's inner area at the very least. A round trip between the Empire's inner and outer areas took over 10 hours even on a mount. During the trip, there was even a risk of encountering a mid-sized or large-sized orc patrol squad. If a team came across such a patrol squad, it would either get annihilated or suffer severe losses. On the other hand, not only was Silverwing Town located right beside the primordial divine ruin, but it was also close to the Empire's inner area. Even if they couldn't enter the primordial divine ruin, they could travel into the Orc Empire's inner area via Silverwing Town. Shifeng reached the guild hall's first underground floor. Standing inside the magic array carved in the center of the floor, Shifeng took out the Heroes chapter to summon Craig Midlands. Originally, Shifeng had intended to use this Heroes chapter on Zero Wing City. However, to increase Silverwing Town's security, he decided to use it on his newly acquired town instead. He placed the Heroes chapter on the magic array's core and started chanting the activation sequence. System, discovered specified Heroes chapter. Do you wish to pay 3,000 magic crystal to summon the specified hero? 3,000 crystals? How fraudulent. Feng was astonished by the price. Even during his previous life, the most expensive specified hero he summoned only cost 1,000 magic crystals. However, that wasn't the worst part. After all, to the current Zero Wing, 3,000 magic crystals was nothing at all. It was a different story if this was the cost of summoning a hero via a hero's chapter. After players summoned a hero, they had to pay half the summoning cost every day to maintain the hero's mana body. In other words, after summoning Craig Midlands, he would have to pay 1,500 magic crystals every day to maintain the hero's existence. This price was the equivalent of 3 magic towers' operating cost. In the end, however, Feng gritted his teeth and chose to proceed with the summoning. Immediately, 3,000 magic crystals vanished from Feng's bag space. The mana inside the guild hall rapidly gathered in the magic array, visibly condensing into white mist. The mist further condensed into liquid mana, which gradually on a human form. Once the human form was complete, the liquid mana released a blinding glow. The hero's chapter, which hovered above the magic array, transformed into lines of divine runes that merged with the liquid mana. Once the divine runes had fully merged with the liquid mana, the blinding glow dissipated. When Feng opened his eyes again, he saw a middle-aged man before him. The middle-aged man was clad in white robes and wore a golden crown. He also wielded a purple-gold, crystalline staff. Taking a closer look, Feng noticed white mist made of mana circulating the middle-aged man's body. It was as if the elemental mana within the floor had submitted to this middle-aged man and moved at the man's will. So, this is the Magic King Craig Midlands? Feng could feel that even if he had the attributes of a level 66, Tier 3 player right now, he was still insignificant before the level 66, Tier 3 Magic King. Before Feng could inspect Craig Midlands' attribute panel, he received a series of system announcements. Chapter 1730, Magic King's Ability. Inside the silent guild hall, Feng could not help but be stunned when he looked at the system announcements he just received. System announcement: the Orc King has obtained the Iron Blood Staff and unified the various Orc tribes. Activating the regional dungeon Orc capital city. System announcement: the Orc Empire has begun its invasion of its neighboring countries and constructed many teleportation war fortresses. System announcement: the Orc Empire has joined the Dark Alliance. The Orc Empire is now classified as a glory battlefield. Feng wasn't the only person shocked by the appearance of these 3 system announcements. The players residing within the Orc Empire and its neighboring countries were all stunned by these sudden announcements. A regional dungeon, fortresses, and a glory battlefield? Is the system trying to turn the entire Orc Empire into a war zone? Feng could not help but frown as he studied the contents of the system announcements. First of all, the Orc capital city. The quantity and quality of resources available inside a regional dungeon located in a neutral map were far better than what regional dungeons located within kingdoms and empires could offer. Not to mention, the Orc capital city was an Azura mode regional dungeon. Setting aside the quality of the weapons and equipment one could obtain from it, just the magic crystals one could get there would make it a target of competition for the various large guilds. Moreover, the Orc capital city's level limit started from level 50 and ended at level 100. A regional dungeon that covered such a wide level range was extremely rare in God's domain. In the future, the large guilds would definitely contest fiercely for the Orc capital city. Aside from the regional dungeon, the teleportation war fortresses would most likely become a fuse that would ignite a war between the major powers as well. The Orc capital city was located in the core area of the Orc Empire. Just traveling from the outer area to the core area would most likely require dozens of hours. However, the teleportation war fortresses could shorten this travel time to just a few seconds. This was possible because of the teleportation arrays set up in these fortresses, which could teleport players to anywhere within their range, just like the 4 towers of elements. These fortresses were scattered around the inner and outer areas of the Orc Empire. As long as players could capture these fortresses from the Orcs, they could directly teleport to the core area of the Empire, possibly even to somewhere close to the Orc capital city. For this reason, the various large guilds would definitely do everything they could to capture these war fortresses. Aggravating the situation in the Orc Empire even more, the Orc Empire had actually joined the Dark Alliance. With this, not only could players belonging to the Dark Forces move about fearlessly within the Orc Empire, but they would even receive help from the Orc Empire itself. Moreover, now that the entire Orc Empire had been classified as a glory battlefield, Dark players and normal players would be after each other's necks constantly inside the Orc Empire. The reason for this was the glory points that players would earn from killing players of the opposing faction. Meanwhile, these glory points could be used not only to exchange for top-tier equipment but also to obtain battlefield titles. These battlefield titles were much more valuable than any weapon or equipment. In fact, they could even aid players in their promotions. Hence, whenever a glory battlefield appeared, a festival of blood would ensue and continue until one side was completely defeated. Moreover, the losing faction would have to pay a very steep price. Due to these reasons, both factions would usually fight with everything they had. As Shifeng tried to process all these sudden developments, his head ached. The appearance of an Azura mode regional dungeon should have been a good thing. However, the timing of the dungeon's appearance only served to further boost the value of Silverwing Town in the eyes of the various major powers. To make matters worse, even the Dark Forces were intervening in the affairs of the Orc Empire, throwing the Empire into even greater turmoil. If Zero Wing was not careful, it was very likely to fall victim to the struggles of the various major powers. At this moment, Shifeng wasn't the only person troubled by this sudden turn of events. After finding out about the changes made to the Orc Empire, the upper echelons of many large guilds also held emergency meetings to discuss how to deal with this situation. Meanwhile, the dark guilds and dark players hiding within the different kingdoms and empires all grew ecstatic upon receiving the system announcements. Their time had finally come. Although neutral maps were not restricted by any kingdom or empire, they still weren't friendly to the dark forces. Dark players would have a much more inconvenient time leveling up in neutral maps than normal players. However, now that the Orc Empire had joined the Dark Alliance, the entire empire became the territory of dark players. They would have a much easier time moving in the Orc Empire than in other NPC kingdoms and empires. In fact, they could even teleport directly into the Orc Empire. Moreover, they also wouldn't have to keep sneaking around and hiding their identities in the Orc Empire, as the orcs were now their allies. Now, they could not only kill other players in such a favorable environment but also earn glory points in doing so. The Orc Empire was basically heaven to dark players like them right now. Even if some independent dark players were not particularly interested in this matter, the various dark guilds would definitely exploit this situation to the fullest. After all, this was a good chance for dark guilds to develop themselves. Wonderful. This is an excellent opportunity for our guild to establish a town. Ha ha ha. The era of dark players is finally here. For a time, countless dark players swarmed towards the Orc Empire. Ancient Rock City, Evil God's Branch Temple. After finding out about the latest changes of God's domain, Beast Emperor was also beaming with joy. Although the Evil God's Temple had no allies in God's domain, that did not mean he could not take advantage of this sudden development. There was a saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." With the various large guilds and dark players at loggerheads, he could cooperate with the dark players to deal with Zero Wing. Doing so would allow him to exact his revenge and destroy Silverwing Town, as well as accelerate the collection of enough contribution points to hasten the invasion of Star Moon Kingdom. Wind, get in touch with the dark guilds in the different kingdoms and empires and tell them that I have a proposition for them. Beast Emperor said, chuckling wickedly. Understood. Wind Hunter nodded. He then ordered his subordinates in the Purple Thorns Empire to arrange for a meeting with the upper echelons of the various dark guilds. Meanwhile, inside the first underground floor of Zero Wing's Guild Hall in Silverwing Town, Shifeng had recollected himself and returned his attention to Craig Midlands. Craig Midlands, Hero, Great Lord, Wizard Saint. Level 66. HP 36000000/36000000. Growth potential, 96. As one of the 32 pillars, Craig Midlands had completed the God's Trial and gained the recognition of ancient gods for his achievements and strength. He possessed not only immense power but also some abilities that other heroes did not. In the past, the hero Shifeng summoned using the specified heroes chapter he obtained had only one ability. Nonetheless, Craig Midlands had two of such special abilities. The first ability was called Hero's Glory, which facilitated the recruitment of powerful NPC soldiers for the town Craig Midlands was residing in. The second ability was called Magic Strengthening, which temporarily strengthened the weapons and equipment used by the NPC guards, improving their combat power significantly. Looking at these two abilities, Shifeng finally understood why exactly Craig Midlands was so powerful. It was no wonder the Magic King could easily defend a large city and become an existence that even the various superpowers were helpless against. Just the effects of Hero's Glory could already bring immense benefits to the town or city Craig Midlands protected, not to mention the ability to strengthen the NPC guards there. Every guild town and city could recruit only a limited number of NPC soldiers. Hence, raising the quality of NPC soldiers was important. However, doing so was extremely difficult. The Magic King's ability to directly increase the combat power of NPC soldiers was simply absurd. Immediately, Shifeng assigned Craig Midlands as Silverwing Town's magistrate. Now, not only did the NPC have authority similar to Shifeng's, but the Magic King could also recruit and manage NPC soldiers on his own. Shifeng had given Craig the highest possible authority an NPC could have in a guild town. Just as Shifeng was about to have Craig start recruiting NPC soldiers, Aqua Rose suddenly sent him a message. The contents of the message were straightforward: the foundations of the 5 magic towers have already been completed. Only the cores are missing now. They're done already? Sure enough, having advanced architects construct the magic towers is much better. Shifeng felt a little surprised as he read the message. However, after giving the matter some thought, he found it reasonable. Constructing the foundations of the magic tower was a joke that even basic architects could handle with ease, not to mention advanced architects. With dozens of advanced architects working together, it was only natural that they completed the task so quickly. Following which, Shifeng had the Magic King take independent action. As for himself, he left the guild residence and hurried to the magic towers in Silverwing Town. Chapter 1731, Taking Shape. After leaving the guild residence and entering the street outside, Shifeng noticed that Silverwing Town looked much more like a proper town than before. Many new buildings decorated the town now. Even the 5-story tall shop meant for the candlelight trading firm had already been constructed. Now, all that shop needed was a link up with the other shops owned by Candlelight and products to be put up for sale. Once that was done, Candlelight would be able to start doing business officially in Silverwing Town. Due to Silverwing Town having already reached a certain scale, the number of NPCs wandering about its streets had also increased. Now, the patrolling NPC adventurers and Zero Wings members weren't the only ones filling the streets. Moreover, Shifeng even noticed a few mercenary NPCs, wearing tattered armor, walking toward Zero Wings' residence, possibly drawn by the Magic King. Although these NPCs looked destitute, when Shifeng used omniscient eyes to inspect them, he discovered that even the weakest among them was a level 70, Tier 2 NPC. Normally, a recently established town would be fortunate to attract Tier 1 NPCs to become soldiers. Majority of the NPCs applying to garrison the town would only be at the elite standard. As for Tier 2 NPCs, those were basically impossible to find. Yet, now, 3 Tier 2 NPCs were showing interest in becoming soldiers in Silverwing Town. For comparison, Zero Wing City had only a few hundred Tier 2 soldiers guarding it even until now. Although the 3 NPCs Shifeng spotted were not particularly high-leveled, they were more than enough to deal with current players. Besides, NPC soldiers leveled up much more quickly than players. It's no wonder people were saying that a powerful hero could give rise to a city. When Shifeng looked at the 3 Tier 2 NPCs, he could not help but recall the first-rate guilds that owned powerful heroes in the past. Although the funds and resources of those first-rate guilds were far from comparable to what super first-rate guilds and super guilds had, due to them obtaining powerful heroes, the defensive capability of their cities was not one bit lower than that of cities operated by superpowers. Back then, even super guilds had trouble taking action against cities defended by powerful heroes. Only after acquiring Tier 6 players were super guilds able to deal with those cities easily. The reason for this was the strength of a hero not being limited to just themselves. Powerful heroes were also capable of recruiting powerful and talented NPCs to become soldiers of the cities they protected. In the past, the cities protected by such powerful heroes had plenty of its soldiers promoted to Tier 3, with some even reaching Tier 4. Buffed by the city's defensive magic array, these NPCs were capable of exhibiting extremely frightening combat power. Without an absolute advantage, trying to capture such a city was practically impossible. After walking a short while, Shifeng arrived at the edge of Silverwing town. Currently, a large number of architects could be seen demolishing the old walls of the town and building new ones in their place. Although the town's original walls had some defensive properties, they were useless against attacks at the Tier 2 standard and above. The new walls being built, however, could stop even Tier 3 attacks. Moreover, they possessed much higher durability as well as resistance to siege weapons. They also had an added effect that prevented players from crossing over them from above. For a neutral town, such walls were a must-have defensive measure. However, the cost of constructing these new walls was not cheap, a minimum of 10,000 gold for the entire perimeter of Silverwing town. If not for Zero Wing having a money-printing machine like Zero Wing City generating large amounts of coins every minute, the guild couldn't have afforded to construct these new walls, in addition to the various hotels, bars, smithies, and restaurants. If a first-rate guild were tasked with managing Silverwing town, the guild would be fortunate to get the basic facilities up and running. After all, the total cost of constructing Silverwing town and the basic facilities in it was already close to 120,000 gold. This was a huge sum of money even for current super first-rate guilds, not to mention first-rate guilds. However, this was only a small part of the necessary investments into Silverwing town. Zero Wing still needed to construct a battle arena as well as multiple defensive structures. Those things cost a lot more money to build than hotels and smithies. Meanwhile, standing at the 4 corners of Silverwing town were 4 magic towers as well as one more magic tower located close to the town's main entrance. Guild leader, several superpowers have already contacted us. They say they're willing to partner with us as long as we hand over 50% of Silverwing town's shares as well as allow them to build a guild residence in the town. In return, they'll help us fend off Beast Emperor's attacks in addition to investing 200,000 gold for the fortification of Silverwing town's defenses, Aqua Rose reported when she saw Shifeng approaching her. 50%? Every superpower is asking for this price? Shifeng asked curiously. He was not particularly surprised by the fact that the various superpowers were offering to invest in Silverwing town. After all, such situations frequently occurred during his previous life. In the past, many first-rate guilds had, fortunately, come across a town-building order but lacked the strength to safeguard the town they built in a neutral map. In the end, these first-rate guilds would choose to partner with a superpower. The first reason for partnering with a superpower was to protect the town. The second reason was to free up more funds for the development of their own guilds. They would not have to sink everything they had into their neutral towns. Emichim. Although there are slight differences in their offers, they have all stated that the 50% shares are a must, Aqua Rose replied, nodding. I've already tried negotiating with them on this point, but they all are of the opinion that we won't be able to hold Silverwing town against Beast Emperor. After factoring in the latest system announcements, they are even more unwilling to budge on this point. We've also just received news that Beast Emperor has managed to add another large batch of evil demons, evil beasts, and independent players to his forces. Right now, these forces are already making their way towards Silverwing Town from ancient Rock City. By the looks of it, Beast Emperor really plans on duking it out with us. What a bunch of old foxes. Sherfone could not help but chuckle upon hearing Aqua Rose's reply. Do they really think that Zero Wing needs their help against Beast Emperor? Ignore those superpowers for now. All we need to do at the moment is have Zero Wing City's elite and expert members come over to Silverwing Town to develop themselves. If Beast Emperor sends any mythic monsters at us, have Cola and the others deal with them. Understood. I'll have them transfer over as soon as possible, Aqua Rose said, nodding. They might not have any way of dealing with the evil beasts and evil demons out in the fields, but none of those monsters should even think of approaching Silverwing Town with its 5 magic towers. Even if Beast Emperor sent a mythic monster at Silverwing Town, their side had Cola and many other Tier 2 players who wielded Tier 3 mana weapons. Including the buff from the magic towers, Cola and the others should have no problem going up against mythic monsters. After Sherfone was done speaking, he entered the closest magic tower and immediately began carving the magic circuits necessary for operating it. The magic circuits were formed using advanced magic arrays. For other players, this was a very difficult and time-consuming task. For Sherfone, who had already become a master magician, however, he could easily complete the necessary advanced magic arrays and connect them into a functioning magic circuit all by himself. Within 5 minutes, Sherfone was done engraving the magic circuit for 1 magic tower. After spending about an hour running around, visiting the 5 magic towers, he was finally done engraving the core magic circuits of the magic towers. Good. Activate all magic towers simultaneously. Sherfone commanded as he stood inside the magic tower located behind the town's main entrance. Immediately, Aqua Rose and other members of the guild's upper echelon, who were stationed inside the other 4 magic towers, activated their respective magic towers. Suddenly, the gigantic crystal atop each magic tower released a dark blue glow. A pillar of light then shot up into the air from each crystal. In the next moment, the towering light pillars split apart and formed light blue barriers that enveloped the entire Silverwing Town. The instant the barriers formed by the 5 magic towers came into contact with each other, the barriers immediately took on a darker shade. By the time the barriers of the 5 magic towers fully merged with each other, a dark blue translucent dome had formed around the entire Silverwing Town. The spectacular scene was visible even to players over at the Primordial Divine Ruin. What's going on? What's happening in Silverwing Town? Everyone present at the Primordial Divine Ruin was dumbfounded as they looked at the dark blue dome covering Silverwing Town, because they could feel the density of the mana around them actually increasing gradually. Chapter 1732, The Effect of 5 Magic Towers. Silverwing Town's sudden transformation immediately attracted the attention of the various major powers at the Primordial Divine Ruin. What's going on with Silverwing Town? It's actually causing such a powerful mana drain. Cuttlefish, who was observing Zero Wing's newly built town from an open-air restaurant in the Primordial Divine Ruin, was filled with confusion. Although Silverwing Town appeared to be located right beside the Primordial Divine Ruin, in reality, over 1,000 yards separated the 2 locations. Despite the distance, the commotion in Silverwing Town affected even the Primordial Divine Ruin. If the rise in mana density in the Primordial Divine Ruin was already so remarkable, what about inside Silverwing Town? After thinking up to this point, Cuttlefish could not help but shudder. Nowadays, the understanding that superpowers had towards the effects of mana density was different from before. After conducting extensive research in libraries and live experiments, they had already discovered just how valuable locations with high mana density were. Areas with high mana concentrations did not only help players maintain a calm mind, allowing them to display greater combat power and return, but also accelerated the recovery of players' stamina and concentration. This situation enabled players to practice their combat techniques for extended periods without having to worry about running out of stamina and concentration. Meanwhile, the execution of combat techniques was different from that of spells and skills. In the case of spells and skills, one could activate them properly so long as the general movements were correct. In the case of combat techniques, however, one's movements needed to be extremely precise. Otherwise, the combat technique would do more harm than good to the user. In short, the difficulty of executing a combat technique was much greater than activating skills and spells. One required arduous practice just to learn to execute a combat technique properly. Hence, if one wished to practice a combat technique efficiently, having an environment that boosted stamina and concentration regeneration was a must. Uncle Cuttlefish, a report just came in from our scouts. It seems Zero Wing has constructed magic towers in Silverwing town. Moreover, the guild built 5 magic towers in one go, a crimson-armored Tier 2 berserker standing beside Cuttlefish reported. 5 magic towers? Did they see correctly? Cuttlefish revealed a stunned expression when he heard this. For a moment, he even wondered if he had misheard. It's true. They've sent a video recording. There are indeed 5 magic towers in the town, the Tier 2 berserker replied, a bitter smile appearing on his face. He, too, had hoped that there was a mistake in the report. However, after watching the video recording, he couldn't deny this fact even if he wanted to. How is this possible? Cuttlefish's complexion darkened as he watched the video recording the Tier 2 berserker forwarded to him. Wasn't it stated that each magic tower design allowed the construction of only 5 magic towers? At this point in time, the various large guilds were no longer strangers to the magic tower. After the first magic tower appeared in Stone Forest Town, the various large guilds had fervently searched for information about it, especially since the magic tower's existence allowed Stone Forest Town to become the #1 town in Starmoon Kingdom. In addition, as an advanced defensive construction, the magic tower provided the town with considerable defensive power. Even until now, the Crimson Emperor Guild had yet to build a single magic tower. Nevertheless, 5 magic towers had now appeared in Silverwing Town simultaneously. This was simply unbelievable. With these 5 magic towers, Silverwing Town's defensive power had increased significantly. Even if Beast Emperor wanted to destroy Silverwing Town, he would face an uphill struggle to do so. Not to mention, with the drastically heightened mana density, Silverwing Town's popularity among players would definitely increase even further. While inside a neutral map, players' stamina and concentration depleted very quickly. And even if they returned to an NPC town or city to recover, a full recovery would take quite a long time. Meanwhile, the increased mana density would significantly shorten the amount of time needed for players to recover, granting players more time to grind and do quests. One could just imagine how attractive Silverwing Town would be to the players trying to develop in the Orc Empire. With this, Crimson Emperor would also have much greater difficulty in acquiring the shares of Silverwing Town. At this moment, besides Cuttlefish of Crimson Emperor, members of the other superpowers present in the Primordial Divine Ruin were also frowning at this situation. Damn it! Just where did Zero Wing obtain another magic tower design from? The upper echelons of the various superpowers were filled with envy as they looked at the 5 magic towers of Silverwing Town. Right now, even a fool could tell that Silverwing Town had a promising future ahead of it. News about Silverwing Town having 5 magic towers spread like wildfire. For a time, the expert players that had been hesitating over developing themselves in the Orc Empire started migrating to the Empire in large numbers. Meanwhile, inside Silverwing Town. So, this is the effect of having 5 magic towers in a single town? Sherfone was a little surprised as he felt the density of the ambient mana. He also noticed an additional buff appearing in his status window. Spirited State. If you remain in this state for 5 hours, your EXP gain will increase by 30% for 1 hour. If you remain in this state for 10 hours, your EXP gain will increase by 30% for 2 hours. Shifeng's eyes glowed when he read the description of this buff. Moreover, aside from this additional buff, the 5 magic towers also received a boost to their attack range, their defensive radius now covering 6,000 yards. Shifeng had never imagined that constructing 5 magic towers in a single town would bring such bonuses. This was his first time learning about such a matter. However, this was also a reasonable situation. After all, magic towers were incredibly precious. This was true even after 10 years had passed in God's domain. In his previous life, the various superpowers would split the magic towers they had to as many towns as possible. Even in important towns and cities, they would construct 3 magic towers at most. Nobody had been willing to spend an entire magic tower design on a single location. If the various large guilds in his previous life had found out that there was such a benefit from constructing 5 magic towers in a single location, most likely every guild that acquired a magic tower design would spend it entirely on a single town or city. After all, in Stone Forest Town, one needed to stay in a hotel to acquire this spirited state buff. Yet, now, just being inside Silverwing Town granted players the buff. Only, the effects of the buff were inferior to the one gained by staying in Stone Forest Town's hotels, as the 30% increased EXP gain lasted only 2 hours. Even so, this buff was still extremely valuable. Now that such a benefit was available for free, the number of players willing to visit Silverwing Town would definitely increase even further. Most likely, the town would be able to develop into an intermediate town within a short period. Afterward, Shifeng called out Silverwing Town's system interface and allowed access to non-guild members. Quick, look! Silverwing Town is now open to the public. Some observers quickly noticed the change in the town's status. Suddenly, countless players swarmed into the town. I'm in a spirited state. What's going on? Is this a joke? We can accumulate 2 hours of increased EXP gain buff just by staying inside Silverwing Town. All hail Zero Wing. The players that entered Silverwing Town could not help but gape in shock when they looked at their status windows. Originally, Silverwing Town was already a very attractive location for players. After all, it not only boasted a higher mana density than even Stone Forest Town but was also located right beside the primordial divine ruin. Now that players could even gain the spirited state buff just by being in the town, Silverwing Town was basically heaven for players. Within just a few minutes of opening to the public, Silverwing Town's player population had already shot past 100,000. Moreover, this number continued to skyrocket. The player population would most likely zoom past 200,000 before the hour was over. Guild leader, we detected a large number of players and evil beasts heading in our direction through the magic towers. Many among these players are dark players. By the looks of it, they are planning to camp outside the primordial divine ruin and start a war of attrition with us, Aqua Rose said, frowning as she looked at the approaching evil beasts and dark players through the crystal ball of a magic tower. Beast Emperor sure is persistent. Shifeng could not help but chuckle as he looked at the images Aqua Rose sent him. Since that is the case, if they dare come close to the primordial divine ruin, make sure to give them a proper greeting using the magic towers. Chapter 1733, Earth-shattering blow. A large group of evil demons and evil beasts, easily over 50,000 in total, had set up camp in the wilderness outside of the primordial divine ruin. This particular group also included some cloaked players, which all radiated killing intent. Just looking at these players could make one shiver. Some of these players didn't even bother with black cloaks to hide their identities, revealing the black IDs above their heads. It was obvious that these players had slain a frightening number of players. They were definitely not ordinary expert players. All of these players were very well geared. Despite recently reaching level 50, over half of their equipment consisted of level 50 mysterious iron and secret silver equipment. These pieces were definitely among the best available at this stage of the game. Wind, I'll say this first, the Crimson Horn Guild will only help you kill Zero Wing's members. We won't be taking the initiative to attack and turn ourselves into cannon fodder, a tall, robust man carrying 2 short swords from his waist indifferently told the phantom of a person beside him. Relax. As long as Zero Wing's members leave Silverwing Town, my evil demons and evil beasts will attack them immediately. All you and your men need to do is find an opportunity to kill them. However, don't forget, my goal involves more than making them lose a single level, Wind Hunter reminded the man. He hadn't only chosen to work with Crimson Horn because it was a famous dark guild in the Dark Knight Empire, he had also chosen the guild due to its production of a particular type of poison. This poison was called Soul Devourer and would be applied to a player's weapons. When these coated weapons were used to kill a player, the poison would corrode the player's soul, and depending on how much poison was applied, the victims could lose up to 3 levels before entering a weakened state. During this weakened period, players could not level up. In return for Crimson Horn's assistance, the Evil God's Temple would help the Dark Guild's members grind glory points and accumulate battlefield titles. Leave this to us. As long as we slay Zero Wing's members, I guarantee that they will need some time to recover their strength, the indifferent man said confidently. If there weren't so many guilds here, I'd love to fight Zero Wing's peak experts. I've heard that their combat standards are quite good, and every item they wear is a treasure. However, by the looks of it, that doesn't seem possible. Saying so, the indifferent man turned to the 6 cloaked players behind him. He wasn't pleased that he couldn't see their appearances. These 6 players would be responsible for dealing with Zero Wing's peak experts in the upcoming battle. Although these 6 people were dark players, they did not belong to a dark guild. Rather, they were members of an adventurer team called Dark Hunters. The adventurer team was quite famous in the Dark Knight Empire, and not even Crimson Horn avoided provoking the team. The Dark Hunters adventurer team consisted of monstrous players, and every member was a dark player. Not long ago, the Dark Hunters had dispatched a 20-man team to annihilate the first-rate guild, Tyrant Emperor's main force. Said force had included 1,000 players. Among the Dark Hunters' 20-man team, 8 were Tier 2 players who had absurd combat standards and basic attributes. Even Star Harvester, Tyrant Emperor's guild leader and a level 51, Tier 2 assassin, had died in the battle. Naturally, a Tier 2 assassin possessed much stronger life-saving skills than a Tier 1 assassin. Even 5 Tier 2 experts working together should not be able to stop a Tier 2 assassin's escape, yet Star Harvest had still been killed. Moreover, a single player from the Dark Hunters had accomplished the deed. The strength the Dark Hunters had displayed had thoroughly shocked the Dark Knight Empire. Star Harvester wasn't some ordinary expert. He was a Refinement Realm expert who ranked 305th on the God's Domain experts list. Not even ordinary Refinement Realm experts stood a chance against him. Yet, the Dark Hunters had killed him. Even before the battle with Tyrant Emperor, the Dark Hunters had created many frightening battle records. Only, these battle records had been carried out in secret, unknown to the various large guilds. The adventure team's accomplishments included the assassination of Crimson Horn's guild leader, Crimson Ghost. This was also why Crimson Ghost wasn't happy to see the 6 Dark Hunters members. In Crimson Ghost's opinion, the players from the Dark Hunters were inhuman, and he hadn't reached this conclusion just because of their monstrous strength. Rather, this opinion was based on the appearance they took on when they activated their true power. When they used their true power, they lost their human form, transforming into true monsters. They also used different combat methods than players like himself. Every one of the 6 players that had been sent from the Dark Hunters was a Tier 2 player. Even without the help of the evil demons and evil beasts, these 6 players were more than enough to deal with Zero Wing's main force members. Since everyone's all here, we'll proceed with the next phase of our plan. First, we'll set up an encirclement around the Primordial Divine Ruin and Silverwing town. But make sure you stay a safe distance away from the town. We estimate that those magic towers have a maximum attack range of around 1,500 yards. Do not enter that range. We won't be responsible for your deaths. Hearing Wind Hunter's warning, the various dark players nodded their heads. War weapons were no laughing matter. The magic tower's attacks possessed power at the peak of Tier 3. Moreover, the attacks had very large ranges. Unless one used an invulnerability skill or spell, no player at this stage of the game could block an attack from a war weapon and survive. No, there was one player who could block an attack from war weapon like the magic tower, but none of these dark players believed that they had the strength to rival Black Flame. When Windhunter finished speaking, the present players went into action. Windhunter then organized his evil demons and evil beasts to surround the primordial divine ruin and Silverwing town. Shortly after the evil demons and evil beasts began to move, the players in the primordial divine ruin discovered their advance. There are so many evil demons and evil beasts. That should be at least 50,000, right? Is Beast Emperor launching another assault? The crowd at the primordial divine ruin gulped when they saw the approaching evil beast and evil demon army. Although they knew that Beast Emperor only planned to target Zero Wing, they couldn't help their growing fear and anxiety as they watched the monsters draw near. Good. They're finally here. When the various superpowers upper echelons saw the evil demons and evil beasts, their moods considerably brightened. Let's see how Zero Wing maintains its arrogance after this. As long as Beast Emperor was willing to fight against Zero Wing would be under a considerable amount of pressure regardless of whether Beast Emperor won or lost. In that case, they would have an opportunity to acquire the shares of Silverwing town. However, when the evil beasts and evil demons were less than 1,000 yards away from the primordial divine ruin, one of the magic towers in Silverwing town, which stood over 3,000 yards away from the monster army, began to gather energy. The mana around the magic tower swiftly collected at the gigantic crystal atop the tower. After a 2-second charge, a pillar of black-white light shot up from the gigantic crystal. Even the players at the primordial divine ruin could clearly see the pillar. What's Zero Wing trying to do? The sudden development confused everyone watching. As these players wondered about the light pillar, it angled downward and shot into the center of the evil beast and evil demon army. Following which, the light pillar expanded and devoured the nearby evil demons and evil beasts. Every monster at special elite rank or below died instantly as the light washed over them. Only chieftains and above had survived, although the monsters at chieftain rank had very little HP remaining. The attack had even heavily injured the Grand Lord ranked evil demons and evil beasts. Chapter 1734, Silverwing's Might. The light pillar that had blasted into the evil demon and evil beast army had only stopped expanding after it had covered a 100-yard radius. It then gradually disappeared. As the beam attack's horrific energy scattered, the fading light revealed a massive crater in the field the monster army occupied. Only the chieftain rank and above evil demons and evil beasts remained alive, while all else had been burned to ash. A single attack had killed hundreds of evil demons and evil beasts, and every surviving monster was heavily injured, drastically decreasing their combat powers. Not even the Grand Lords that had received the attack had been spared. Seeing this, the players at the distant primordial divine ruin gaped in shock. That had been too powerful. The power of that attack could practically rival that of a Tier 4 spell. What's going on? Didn't they say that Silverwing Town's magic towers should only have an attack range of roughly 1,500 yards? The expressions of Crimson Horn's members darkened as they stared at the crater only a short distance away. Had the beam attacks been shifted slightly, it would have killed more than just evil demons and evil beasts. The death count would have included players like them, as well. Crimson Horn's members weren't the only ones horrified by this sudden attack. The various superpowers members fell into heated discussions, finding Silverwing Town's attack inconceivable. How does that magic tower have such a long attack range? Cuttlefish wore an ugly look as he stared at the fading light pillar. He had thought that Beast Emperor would force Zero Wing into a corner, preventing the guild's members from setting foot in the primordial divine ruin. However, with such an increased attack range on the town's magic towers, even reaching the ruin itself, Beast Emperor was powerless to stop Zero Wing's members from competing for entry slots. After all, the magic tower's attacks were extraordinarily powerful. If Beast Emperor sent his minions to block Zero Wing's path, the guild would retaliate without mercy. If the magic tower struck too many times, even mythic-ranked monsters would fall, much less the lower-ranked monsters. Before anyone could recover from their shock, another of Silverwing Town's mana towers began to gather mana. 2 seconds later, another black-white light pillar ascended into the sky. In the blink of an eye, another energy beam struck the evil demon and evil beast army, opening another clearing amidst the monsters. Damn it! How is this happening? Wind Hunter's heart bled as he watched his evil demons and evil beasts fall by the hundreds. He had gone to great lengths to nurture these evil demons and evil beasts. He could accept their deaths if their deaths had meaning, but right now, they were nothing more than living targets for Zero Wing. As Wind Hunter prepared to issue a new command, another beam attack slammed into his monster army. Boom! This time, the attack had taken the lives of more than just a large number of evil demons and beasts. Some of Crimson Horn's members hidden among the monster ranks had died instantly. Retreat! Everyone retreat! Crimson Ghost shouted through the team chat with an ashen complexion. Dark guilds had far fewer members than ordinary guilds. A very powerful dark guild generally only had around 30,000 members. Crimson Horn had barely over that count. For this operation, Crimson Horn had dispatched 2,000 expert members, nearly every expert in the guild. And that last beam attack had killed over 100 Crimson Horn experts. At this moment, Crimson Ghost developed a deep hatred for Wind Hunter. Because of Wind Hunter's misinformation, Crimson Horn had lost over 100 experts for no good reason. As dark players, the death penalty they suffered was much more severe than ordinary players. Even though their alignment with the dark forces would lighten their death penalty slightly, it was still harsher than what ordinary players faced. Now that over 100 Crimson Horn experts had been killed, the guild had lost over 5% of its peak combatants. If they suffered another blow like that, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just as Crimson Horn's members began to retreat, Zero Wing's members flooded out of Silverwing Town. Although only a little over 2,000 guild members had emerged, every one of them rode a majestic thunder wolf. The spectacular scene of 2,000+ thunder wolves stunned both the spectators and Wind Hunter's group. Bastards! Wind Hunter bellowed in rage as he watched Zero Wing's army charge towards him. After bombarding his army with the magic towers, Zero Wing actually took it a step further and sent its members to pursue his remaining forces. It was obvious that Zero Wing wanted to show everyone that the evil god's temple was not a foe worth worrying about. To make matters worse, Zero Wing had only dispatched a little over 2,000 members for the pursuit. If news of this spread, the evil god's temple's prestige would be tarnished. The temple would become a laughing stock in the Orc Empire. Immediately, Wind Hunter had his evil demons and evil beasts charge at Zero Wing's army, even going as far as to mobilize 2 mythic evil beasts. Although the magic tower's attacks were powerful, they couldn't easily take down mythic-ranked monsters. In fact, the 2 mythic evil beasts would have no problems escaping the battlefield even after annihilating Zero Wing's force. Moreover, with how far the magic towers could reach, Zero Wing wouldn't dare to fire on the evil demons and evil beasts as they clashed with the guild's members. Suddenly, one level 60+ evil demon and evil beast charged towards the incoming players, but before they could reach their targets, 2 more beam attacks plowed into the monster's frontline. The beams wiped out any elites and special elites they struck while leaving the rest heavily injured. After the 2 beam attacks descended, Zero Wing's members, who wielded mana weapons, finally made contact with the evil demons and evil beasts. The moment they did, they started a slaughter. The Zero Wing experts wielding Tier 2 mana weapons could fight a Lord-ranked evil demon or evil beast, even when the monsters were at their peak, toe-to-toe. Hence, the weakened chieftains and lords posed no threat to Zero Wing's melee players. In addition, the ranged DPS provided cover fire, and the healers maintained everyone's HPs from the rear. Overall, the first wave of evil demons and evil beasts that met Zero Wing's army in combat was no match for Zero Wing's army. Finally, the 2 mythic-ranked evil earth dragons arrived before Zero Wing's forces, their massive frames looming like 2 mountains. The evil earth dragons then released deafening roars as they swiped their massive claws at the enemy players. However, before their claws could reach the melee players before them, 2 figures appeared before each monster. One of these figures was Kola, while the other was Turtledove, and the two MTs had already activated the power of darkness, increasing their attributes significantly. Silver divine runes illuminated the Tier 3 mana weapons in their hands, and once the two Guardian Knights reached the evil Earth Dragons, they swung these weapons at the incoming claws. Tier 2 skill, Divine Adjudication. A golden glow bloomed before the two Guardian Knights as the two evil Earth Dragons' gigantic claws abruptly halted mid-swing. No matter how much force they used, they couldn't even move their claws an inch farther. After a brief moment, two explosions shook the area. The two level 75 evil Earth Dragons stumbled 5 steps back, and the ground beneath them trembled as they moved. Before the mythic evil beasts could recover their stances, Cola and Turtledove advanced once again and arrived before their targets. They then swung their weapons, and the silver divine runes covering the Tier 3 mana weapons brightened as the blades fell on their targets. Tier 2 skill, Dragon Annihilator. Tier 2 skill, Current Blade. Cola and Turtledove used their respective legacy skills without hesitation. The moment their attacks connected with the evil Earth Dragons, the two mythic monsters let out agonizing cries as they were pushed back by 20 yards, a damage of over -800,000 appearing above each of their heads. Although the evil Earth Dragons' HP bars had only decreased by a very small fraction, barely noticeable to ordinary players, expert players with acute perception noticed the change. The players watching from the primordial divine ruin were frozen with shock, staring at Cola and Turtledove with dumbfounded expressions. Chapter 1735, A Nest of Monsters? Chapter 1735, A Nest of Monsters? The nearby Crimson Horn members couldn't help but gasp when the players pushed the evil Earth Dragon's titanic frames backward by over 20 yards. They were as shocked as if they had witnessed two ants push back a tiger and a lion. How is this even possible? Is Zero Wing just a nest of monsters? Both Crimson Horn's members and the various spectating players at the primordial divine ruin were at a loss for words. Aside from how massive the evil Earth Dragons were, just the fact that they possessed the strength of mythic monsters should make them impossible for players to go up against. Watching Black Flame kill a mythic evil demon had been scary enough, yet two more monstrous players had risen in Zero Wing. No. This can't be possible. They must have used some kind of special potion to boost their strength. They can't keep this up for long. Windhunter's eyes nearly fell from their sockets when he saw the evil Earth Dragon slide back. He was sure that Cola and Turtledove must have used some special method to grant them the strength to face mythic monsters for a short time. There were certain tools in God's domain that could grant players extraordinary power for a short time. Even Windhunter had such a tool in his possession, but it wasn't strong enough to allow him to go toe-to-toe with a mythic monster. As for the possibility that Zero Wing actually had two more players on Black Flame's level, that was simply absurd. He absolutely refused to believe that Zero Wing could produce 3 experts that could contend with mythic monsters on their own. Thinking up to this point, he commanded the evil Earth Dragons to continue their assault against the two Guardian Knights. Once the two mythic evil beasts had stabilized themselves, they whipped their tails at the two MTs. The massive tails swept up a powerful storm as they moved, forming a pitch-black rift wherever they passed. Faced with such an attack, even a Tier 2 metric tons with their life-saving skill activated would risk an instant death if they took the strike head-on. However, Cola and Turtledove remained unfazed as they swung their Tier 3 mana weapons again. Two silver lights then clashed with the evil Earth Dragon's colossal tails as two loud explosions echoed across the battlefield. Even the crowd at the primordial divine ruin, which was over 1,000 yards away, could clearly hear the explosions. This time, neither side had gained an advantage over the other by the time the clash ended. However, the ground beneath them had cracked, the fractures extending out over 20 yards away. The frightening display of power made the watching players shudder. Boom. 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 Despite the clash ending in a draw, neither side wanted to give up the fight. For a time, both sides exchanged one blow after another. Meanwhile, the surrounding Zero-Wing members massacred evil demons and evil beasts in a frenzy. Any Zero-Wing member could solo a Great Lord, dealing around -50,000 damage with their attacks. As for Aqua Rose, Alluring Summer, Blackie, and Violet Cloud, who wielded Tier 3 mana weapons, their spells easily dealt over -100,000 damage to their targets, with some dealing over -200,000 damage. From time to time, they would also use large-scale destruction spells, causing hundreds of thousands of damage to a clump of monsters. Although the evil demons and evil beasts greatly outnumbered Zero-Wing's army, the army of 2,000+ players had them completely outmatched. Before even 30 seconds had passed since the battle began, over 100 weakened chieftains and lords were killed already. None of the spectating powers had expected this battle to take this turn. They had assumed that Zero-Wing would rely on its magic towers to protect itself. They had never thought that Zero-Wing's members actually possessed such extraordinary strength. If the rest of Zero-Wing's force weren't busy with the other evil demons and evil beasts, the small army would definitely slay the 2 evil earth dragons. With such power, it's no wonder why they had no interest in our partnership offers. Quiet Melody, who sat in an open-air restaurant in the primordial divine ruin, could not help but reveal a bitter smile as she watched Cola and Turtledove fight the evil earth dragons. She had thought that Zero-Wing was trying to keep up appearances by refusing the various superpowers offers for cooperation and would only lower its head after Beast Emperor's forces had cornered the guild. However, with Zero-Wing's current display of strength, it certainly qualified to protect Silverwing Town without help. Not even the various superpowers could deal with mythic-ranked monsters so easily. With the 5 magic towers' absurdly long attack range, Zero-Wing should have no problems defending Silverwing Town even after the town's protection period. That damned Wind Hunter. He nearly made us enemies with Zero-Wing. Fortunately, we haven't actually fought Zero-Wing's members yet. We should still have time to escape Zero-Wing's notice. Crimson Ghost could not help but glare at the distant Wind Hunter as he watched the evil demons and evil beasts' extermination. Zero-Wing's strength was nothing like what Wind Hunter had told him. Every one of Zero-Wing's experts was ridiculously strong. Not even a Tier 2 player like him dared to face Cola and Turtledove head-on. With the MT's incredible destructive power, they could likely kill him in one hit. The fight before him could no longer be described as a battle. This was basically a one-sided slaughter. When Crimson Ghost recalled how he had lost over 100 guild experts, he truly felt fortunate. If not for that incident, he wouldn't have given the command to retreat. Had his army of 2,000 players assaulted Zero-Wing's members, the consequences would have been disastrous. Seeing Zero-Wing's frightening combat power also instilled an indescribable shock in Crimson Ghost. Not even the super first-rate guilds that ruled over the Dark Knight Empire were capable of fielding such a powerful player army. Yet, an up-and-coming guild from Star Moon Kingdom had accomplished just that. Moreover, based on his investigations, Zero-Wing didn't have the support of any backers. Meanwhile, the 6 cloaked players from the Dark Hunters rested in a corner of the battlefield. After observing the battle for some time, the ranger carrying a crystalline longbow shook his head. This won't do. Zero-Wing's members are much stronger than we anticipated. We're canceling our plans to plunder their weapons temporarily. Leader, although Zero-Wing is clearly stronger than we had assumed, it isn't entirely impossible to kill the guild's ordinary experts. Those experts haven't even reached Tier 2 yet. We can simply kill them and flee. The commander definitely won't let us off the hook if we fail this mission. Although the ranger leading this party wanted to cancel the operation, the other 5 members shook their heads, objecting to the idea. When they thought about how frightening their commander was, in particular, and the punishment awaiting them if they failed, they couldn't help but shudder. Their party leader might be able to bear the penalty, but they couldn't. Hearing his party members' objections, the ranger glanced at Zero-Wing's ordinary experts. As his party members had said, although these Zero-Wing players had higher basic attributes than theirs, their combat standards were lacking. They hadn't even reached the half-step refinement realm yet. Most importantly, these ordinary experts were all Tier 1 players. The differences between Tier 1 players and Tier 2 players weren't limited to basic attributes. There was also a massive gap between their skills and physiques. With the strength of their 6-man party, they should be able to pick off a few of these ordinary experts before departing safely. Based on his observations, there were fewer than 10 players on Zero Wing's side that could pose a threat to their party. The others weren't a problem. Fine. But finish things quickly. Flee as soon as you get your hands on their weapons, the ranger said, nodding after giving the matter some thought. Their mission required that they obtain the weapons Zero Wing's peak experts wielded, but trying to kill Cola and the others was too much of a challenge right now. On the off chance that Zero Wing's peak experts surrounded them, their deaths would be almost certain. If they targeted the weaker experts, though, they'd have higher chances of success. Although they wouldn't obtain the weapons Zero Wing's peak experts wielded, at least they wouldn't return empty-handed. Under the Ranger's lead, the Dark Hunter's 6-man party charged toward Zero Wing's members, who were embroiled in a battle with the evil demons and evil beasts. Chapter 1736, Confrontation with the Dark Hunters. Chapter 1736, Confrontation with the Dark Hunters. On the chaotic battlefield, Cola and Turtledove continued to block the evil Earth Dragon's attacks. Meanwhile, the other Zero Wing members frantically cleared out the heavily injured evil beasts and evil demons, rapidly dwindling the army's numbers. The battle was thoroughly in Zero Wing's favor. Because of this, Zero Wing's excitement continued to mount as they fought. The mana weapons' incredible attack power couldn't compare to their normal weapons, and even though they were Tier 1 players, they completely overwhelmed the Lord-ranked evil demons and evil beasts. Although the slain monsters didn't drop any loot, these players did receive a bountiful amount of EXP. After fighting for just a short moment, their experience bars had grown by a noticeable chunk. Upon reaching their level, they required a ridiculously high amount of EXP for each level up. Sometimes, they'd grind for 10 minutes straight without any noticeable change to their experience bars. Now, however, they should be able to gain enough EXP for a full level after fighting these evil demons and evil beasts for 3 hours or so. With how generous the EXP was from killing these monsters, they had to take advantage of this opportunity as much as possible. Even the spectators at the Primordial Divine Ruin were jealous of Zero Wing's members. It was not very often players encountered such a large army of high-ranked monsters. Even if they did, most players did their best to stay out of the monsters' way. Trying to fight such a powerful monster army guaranteed casualties, after all. The losses would completely outweigh the gains. However, now that Zero Wing had Cola and Turtledove to pin down the evil Earth Dragons, and Zero Wing's other members had the strength to overwhelm the other evil beasts and evil demons, Zero Wing's army could safely grind these enemy monsters. Why wouldn't they be jealous of Zero Wing? It seems Beast Emperor has only failed again. Quiet Melody could not help her bitter smile when she saw that the evil demons and evil beasts had begun to retreat. After this battle, Beast Emperor wouldn't be able to touch Zero Wing at the Primordial Divine Ruin again. Big Sis Melody, look over there. A few dark players seem to be charging into the battle, Blue Jade said suddenly as she pointed at the 6 figures rushing into the heart of the battlefield with flying speed. They must intend to attack Zero Wing. These 6 players were none other than the 6 from the Dark Hunters Adventurer team. What a powerful concealment technique. Who are those people? Quiet Melody watched the rapidly moving figures with astonishment. As one of the Sacred Temple's Vice Temple Masters, she had more than great combat power. She also possessed acute perception. Although the 6 players hid their identities and appearances with black cloaks, Quiet Melody could tell that they were all Tier 2 players based on their movement. Tier 2 players had far higher basic attributes than Tier 1 players, and their mobility wasn't something that Tier 1 players could hope to rival. Hence, it was very easy to differentiate between Tier 1 and Tier 2 players. However, what truly surprised Quiet Melody was the 6 players' movement technique. All 6 moved with incredible stealth. As they weaved their way through the army of monsters, they were able to utilize the surrounding monsters' bodies and auras to hide themselves. It was likely that even she wasn't as adept at concealing herself and her aura as these 6 players were. If not for her bird's-eye view of the battlefield, she wouldn't have discovered these 6 players at all. What? The Dark Hunters are actually making a move? Crimson Ghost, who had long since retreated from the battlefield, could not help his surprise when he noticed the 6 figures approach Zero Wing's army. At this point, Zero Wing's superiority in this battle could not be any more obvious. There was no reason to continue this fight with the guild, yet the 6 Dark Hunters insisted on doing so. Crimson Ghost was truly confused. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Wind Hunter had noticed the 6 Dark Hunters players moving towards Zero Wing's army as well. They're going to strike? Wind Hunter's frown relaxed slightly. Originally, he hadn't planned on enlisting the help of the Dark Hunters adventurer team in this fight against Zero Wing. Beast Emperor had invited them. Moreover, Beast Emperor had even specifically instructed him not to provoke the Dark Hunters casually. It was clear that even Beast Emperor was a little afraid of this adventurer team known as the Dark Hunters. Initially, Beast Emperor's decision had left him slightly disgruntled, but after seeing that all 6 of the adventurer team's representatives were Tier 2 players, his opinion of the Dark Hunters had changed slightly. When he had tried to fight one of these representatives, he had learned exactly how powerful these 6 players truly were. If these 6 players were pitted against a 1,000-man team of ordinary Tier 1 experts, the expert army would suffer catastrophic losses even if the 6 eventually died. When the 6 Dark Hunters had stated their intentions to hunt Zero Wing's peak experts, he had agreed without hesitation because of this. Originally, he had thought that the Dark Hunters had planned to abandon this fight like Crimson Horn's members had. He never thought that the Dark Hunters would still make a move. This was definitely good news for him. As Wind Hunter considered his next move, the 6 Dark Hunters reached the edge of Zero Wing's army. "Start the attack," the leading ranger commanded as he watched a group of Zero Wing members. The ranger then retrieved the crystalline longbow from his bag, simultaneously firing 9 arrows. Combat technique, 9-star strike. Suddenly, the 9 arrows split and flew at 9 different Zero Wing players. Moreover, every arrow targeted the players' blind spots. Dang! 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 Although the ranger's aim had been accurate, the 9 Zero Wing members noticed the attacks and responded by swinging their weapons at the incoming projectiles. However, they felt as if they had struck an immovable wall the moment their weapons touched the arrows. Not only did the resulting vibrations hurt their arms, but they were also forced to retreat. The power the arrows contained could even rival a High Lord's attack. As Tier 1 players, they wouldn't be able to block such an attack unless they used their berserk skills. However, Zero Wing's ordinary experts all wielded Tier 2 mana weapons, which granted them great strength. They could also stabilize their postures after retreating about 4 steps. Unfortunately, before the 9 Zero Wing members could locate their attacker, they noticed multiple skills and spells flying at them from multiple directions. Before they could react, these skills and spells smashed into them. Needless to say, these attacks had originated from the other 5 Dark Hunters. The 9 players from Zero Wing rapidly lost HP. Only the plate armor classes retained around 2/3 of their HP, while the rest had more than 50%. After the brief clash, the 9 Zero Wing members realized that they had encountered a powerful foe. They immediately activated their mana weapons, attacking their ambushers. Facing attacks that could rival the power of High Lords, the 6 Dark Hunters chose not to block the attacks directly, but to dodge or deflect them. This situation rendered the 9 Zero Wing members utterly helpless about their current predicament. Before the rear-line healers could heal the 9 injured players, the 6 Dark Hunters launched another wave of attacks, easily slipping past the Zero Wing members' defenses and killing the 9 experts instantly. This shocked the nearby Zero Wing players. Even the upper echelons from the various major powers, who watched from the primordial divine ruin, couldn't help but gasp. Too fast. Although the 9 players from Zero Wing had yet to reach the refinement realm, their basic attributes almost rivaled Tier 2 players. They should wield the strength of a high lord of the same level, yet the 6 Dark Hunters had effortlessly ended their lives. Although the Dark Hunters' status as Tier 2 players was part of the reason for their success, the various major powers' upper echelons recognized the absolutely perfect coordination between the 6 players. Even if the 9 targeted players had been Refinement Realm experts, the ambush's outcome would likely have been the same. After the 9 Zero-Wing members had died, they had dropped a total of 18 items, far more than normal. 3 of these 18 items were Tier 2 mana weapons. Good. We're retreating, the leading ranger commanded after snatching up a Tier 2 mana weapon. He then turned and fled. The other 5 Dark Hunters nodded in response. They wanted to kill more players, but since their party leader had ordered the retreat, they had to obey. Following which, they dully picked up an item closest to them and fled back into the Evil Demon and Evil Beast army. But just as the 6 players melded into the monster army, a figure leaped out of Zero-Wing's forces and blocked the Dark Hunter's path. This figure was none other than Fire Dance. Do you think that you can leave so easily after killing our guild members? Fire Dance demanded as she swept a glance over the 6 Dark Hunters, a cold glint flashing in her eyes. Chapter 1737, Soloing the Dark Hunters. Chapter 1737, Soloing the Dark Hunters. Fire Dance's sudden appearance abruptly halted the 6 Dark Hunters' retreat. Fire Dance didn't currently wear her black cloak, so both her appearance and level of 52 were available for everyone to see. Although her weapons and equipment didn't particularly stand out, Fire Dance radiated an unruly charm that felt like a daunting pressure weighing down on these Dark Hunters members. When the Dark Hunters looked at Fire Dance, she seemed like the absolute overlord of her surroundings. So fast. Fire Dance's appearance had surprised Lonely Lamp, the ranger and the Dark Hunters' party leader. His party had specifically chosen to strike far away from any of Zero-Wing's peak experts. The closest peak expert had been several hundred yards away. By the time the guild's peak experts could have ridden to the rescue, their party would have already completed their mission and fled the battlefield. Less than 20 seconds had passed since they had launched their assault against Zero-Wing's 9 ordinary experts, yet Fire Dance had caught up with them. Her movement speed should be nearly double theirs. What bold words. Do you believe that you can stop all 6 of us by yourself? An emaciated assassin among the Dark Hunters asked, sneering. That's right. We are surrounded by evil demons and evil beasts. Do you really think your allies can come to your aid in time? A beautiful female elementalist said with a faint smile. Our original mission was to kill Zero-Wing's peak experts like you. Now that you dare to block our path, we'll just use this opportunity to kill you. That way, we'll complete our mission perfectly. The other Dark Hunters nodded in agreement, killing intent radiating from their eyes. They currently stood in the midst of the Evil Demon and Evil Beast army. They were also roughly 200 yards away from the nearest Zero-Wing member. It would take quite some time for Zero-Wing's members to reach their location. They might not be confident in taking on Fire Dance one-on-one, but they outnumbered the female assassin by 6 to 1. By charging at them alone, Fire Dance had simply jumped into the jaws of death. Yet, Fire Dance had still been so foolish. Her actions rendered them utterly speechless. Was she a fool? Or had the woman lost her mind? Even the various superpowers, who were relatively familiar with Fire Dance's strength, were confused about the female assassin's actions, let alone the Dark Hunters' party. Is she tired of living? Does she not recognize those 6 players' strength? When the various superpowers' upper echelons saw Fire Dance charge into the army of evil beasts and evil demons, blocking the 6 Dark Hunters' path, they felt as if Zero-Wing's members were a bunch of lunatics. It wasn't unusual to see Black Flame make such bold and arrogant moves. He qualified to do so, after all, but Fire Dance. Ha ha ha. Zero-Wing is finally going to suffer a little. Wind Hunter could not help but laugh at the situation. When he noticed Zero-Wing's members trying to reach Fire Dance to offer their help, he commanded some of his evil demons to stop them. While the 6 Dark Hunters had spoken, they had subtly surrounded Fire Dance, preventing her escape. Watch her speed. Ranged players, maintain your distance from her. Sharp, you'll be the distraction. Make sure she doesn't escape. We have to finish this fight as quickly as possible. Lonely Lamp commanded as he retrieved his crystalline longbow from his back. The other 5 Dark Hunters nodded in response. The emaciated assassin, Sharp Blade, then charged at Fire Dance with a Tier 2 Berserker and a Tier 2 Swordsman close behind him. At the same time, the Tier 2 Cleric at the rear cast the Tier 2 instantaneous spell, Holy Mark on Fire Dance. Now, even if Fire Dance used Vanish and entered a forced stealth state, their party could keep track of her. As for Lonely Lamp and the Tier 2 Elementalist, they coordinated their attacks, firing from the female assassin's sides. In the blink of an eye, multiple attacks flew towards Fire Dance from different locations. Pay for your arrogance. Sharp Blade shouted as he used shadow steps, appearing behind Fire Dance instantly. He then thrust his aqua blue short sword at Fire Dance's back. Tier 2 skill, Triple Interception. Suddenly, Sharp Blade's short sword transformed into 3 streaks of shadow that aimed for Fire Dance's blind spots. Although each shadow's power wasn't strong, the strikes couldn't be blocked with shields or weapons. They could only be dodged or stopped by a defensive skill. In the meantime, the Berserker charging at Fire Dance from the front raised his battle axe and slammed it at the ground before him. Tier 2 skill, Fracturing Spikes. Stone spikes rose from the ground beneath Fire Dance's feet, entrapping her. Meanwhile, the Tier 2 Swordsman used a normal slash against his target. As for Lonely Lamp and the female Elementalist, they sent numerous arrows and fireballs at the female assassin. As they watched the 6 Dark Hunters assault, the spectators at the Primordial Divine Ruin gasped. Even the various superpowers peak experts wore serious expressions when they saw this coordinated offensive. The Dark Hunters' coordination and skill utilization were simply perfect. Even peak experts like themselves would fall under such a seamless bombardment. Even Fire Dance, the target of this offensive, was slightly surprised. She hadn't expected such high combat standards from the 6 Dark Hunters, and even their coordination had reached such an impressive level. However, before the numerous attacks could land, Fire Dance split into 6 identical copies of herself. Phantom. This was the 1000 Transformation's first additional skill. Although the 5 doppelgangers couldn't attack, they were invulnerable. Moreover, they could exist for a full 30 seconds. Boom. 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 A series of attacks struck Fire Dance, but her HP didn't decrease in the slightest. Meanwhile, Fire Dance's sudden split and 6 copies had stunned the Dark Hunters slightly, and they paused for a brief moment. These are doppelgangers that can't attack. One of these 6 doppelgangers must be the real assassin. Lan Hua and I will attack the doppelgangers. The rest of you need to keep an eye out for the real body. Lonely Lamp shouted, reacting quickly to the new development. Although doppelganger skills like the one Fire Dance had just used were rare in God's domain, some did exist. Hence, players had learned of ways to counter these skills. In a one-on-one fight, players would have to flee and wait for the skill's duration to end, but if a party were to face such a doppelganger skill, the ranged players could launch AoE attacks, hitting every doppelganger simultaneously to determine the real body's location. The melee players could then take advantage of this information to attack the enemy's main body. Immediately, Lonely Lamp and the female elementalist, Lan Hua, launched spells and arrows at all 6 Fire Dance copies. However, before they could do so, Fire Dance had switched positions with one of her doppelgangers and appeared beside the Tier 2 Berserker. She then lightly swung 1000 transformations at her target. Surprised, the Berserker hurriedly executed Whirlwind Slash to repel Fire Dance. Boom! The instant the Berserker's battle axe collided with 1000 transformations, however, the man's expression darkened. He felt as if he had just struck an impenetrable wall. Not only did his weapon stop abruptly, but the intense feedback forced him to take a step backward. Just as the Tier 2 Berserker stepped back, the Tier 3 mana dagger in Fire Dance's left hand glowed with a beautiful red light as the assassin thrust it towards the Berserker's heart. Damn it! The Berserker was close to losing his mind. You forced me to do this. He currently wielded a two-handed weapon. In terms of strength, he should be stronger than players who used one-handed weapons, yet Fire Dance had surprised him by relying on 1,000 transformations. Her first attack didn't leave him any energy to deal with the weapon in her left hand. As the Berserker finished his statement, his skin began to turn a dark shade of red. His body then seemed to grow a little larger, and just as the Tier 3 mana dagger was about to reach the Berserker, two long swords appeared, blocking its path. Boom! Following the sound of an explosion, Fire Dance involuntarily took 3 steps backward, and she gave the Tier 2 Berserker before her a surprised look. The Berserker no longer resembled a human. Instead, he had taken the form of a four-armed, humanoid lizard. The Berserker now wielded 2 one-handed axes and 2 long swords in his 4 hands. You're quite impressive to force me to transform. But I'll be taking your life now, the Tier 2 Berserker sneered as he charged at Fire Dance. Silence dominated the battlefield. Meanwhile, the spectating crowd at the primordial divine ruin watched this unbelievable scene with dropped jaws. A player had actually transformed into a monster. A mutated player? Shifeng revealed a surprised expression when he saw the Tier 2 Berserker from Silverwing Town's walls. Chapter 1738, Dark Mutation. Chapter 1738, Dark Mutation. When the Tier 2 Berserker had transformed, Zero Wing's nearby players were dumbfounded. They had seen plenty of berserk skills that slightly altered their user's appearance, but this was the first time they had seen a berserk skill causing such a huge transformation. After transforming, the Tier 2 Berserker's aura had undergone a massive transformation. Not only was his aura much stronger now, but it also no longer felt human. However, this was still not the worst part. The most important change was to the Berserker's body. Currently, the Berserker had 4 arms instead of 2. Of course, having an extra set of arms wasn't necessarily a good thing as human minds weren't accustomed to controlling more than one set of arms. If a person suddenly grew an extra set of arms, they'd have some difficulty controlling the new appendages. However, if the Berserker could control all 4 arms properly, he'd have a massive advantage in battle. A player with 4 arms would be able to execute more varied attack methods than a player with a single set. The 4-armed player could also commit 2 arms to offense and 2 to defense. If the Tier 2 Berserker could coordinate all 4 of his arms properly, his combat power would double at the very minimum. Meanwhile, the various power spectating members were dumbfounded by the Berserker's transformation. What did he do? Did he really use a berserk skill? There's such a transformation skill in God's domain as well? Curiosity filled the spectating crowd as they watched the transformed Tier 2 Berserker. Even the various superpowers upper echelons had no idea of what the Berserker had just done. In fact, the Berserker's transformation had surprised them even more than watching Cola and Turtledove tank 2 mythic evil beasts. The Tier 2 Berserker's transformation had shattered their understanding of God's domain. Sure enough, he still had to use it. Lonely Lamp could not help but sigh when he saw Dark Bear, the Tier 2 Berserker, transform. This was the Dark Hunters Adventurer team's greatest secret. Not many people knew about this transformation ability. However, now that they had revealed this secret to the public, their adventurer team would definitely face trouble in the future. However, the Berserker's decision to transform didn't particularly surprise him. After all, Fire Dance had displayed extraordinary combat power. Had Dark Bear refused to transform, she would have likely killed him already. Aside from Lonely Lamp and the other Dark Hunters members, only Shifeng had a clear idea of what was happening as he watched the battle from Silverwing Town's walls. The Tier 2 Berserker's transformation ability was known as Mutation in God's domain. Mutation was a method of increasing one's combat power by abandoning one's human body. It was somewhat similar to demon players' demonification. The transformation process had no time limit, and it could be activated and deactivated at any time. To become a mutated player, one had to perform a particular ritual, which required the sacrifice of many players, even dark players. In addition, despite being dark players themselves, mutated players hunted other dark players. They did so because it was the only way a mutated player could mutate further and grow stronger. This was akin to how demon players improved their ranks. Only, mutated players had more of a restriction than demon players. Moreover, mutated players gained more combat power when they transformed than demon players. This was because, in their mutated form, mutated players would gain a body that was far more suitable for battle. Their attributes and life ratings also increased. In return, physical control became more difficult. Mutated players had a harder time remaining calm in their mutated form, as well. But one had to admit that mutation allowed players to become extremely powerful. Shifeng had never expected to find a mutated player at this stage of the game. By becoming a mutated player, players took a similar stance as the evil god's temple, becoming antagonistic to both dark and normal players. Furthermore, gaining a mutation was incredibly difficult as the process couldn't be conducted on the god's domain continent. Normally, mutated players would only appear after pathways between the continent and other worlds opened. Back on the battlefield, after a short moment of silence, the transformed berserker charged at Fire Dance. Not only had the berserker gained an extra set of arms after his transformation, but his movement speed and reaction speed had also undergone a qualitative transformation. In the blink of an eye, the berserker appeared before Fire Dance. He then swung his one-handed axes down at the female assassin, while his two longswords flew towards Fire Dance's sides. The weapons moved so quickly that even Tier 2 players would barely be able to keep up with them. Die! As Dark Bear shouted, his arm muscles bulged, and his weapon speed increased even further. Tier 2 skill, Rock Smash. Once Fire Dance recovered from her shock, she simply swung the Tier 3 mana dagger at the incoming axes, rather than activating a life-saving skill to protect herself from the sudden assault. Silver divine runes lit up along the dagger as it was about to collide with the axes. Boom! Sparks scattered as the weapons collided, and the resulting impact's shockwaves cracked and shattered the ground beneath the weapons. Lonely Lamp and the other Dark Hunters, who watched from the sidelines, were dumbfounded by this scene. Fire Dance's attack had actually sent Dark Bear flying back by a full 15 yards. When Dark Bear landed, his arms, which wielded the two axes, trembled violently, whereas the axes themselves released a low hum. Meanwhile, a damage of more than -2,000 had appeared above Dark Bear's head. Although receiving -2,000 damage was nothing considerable since Dark Bear had over 100,000 HP after transforming, if this scene repeated, it'd only be a matter of time before Dark Bear died. However, the most unbelievable aspect of the clash had to be the fact that Fire Dance had accomplished the feat without activating a berserk skill. After entering his mutated form, Dark Bear's strength rose by 80%, yet he had still lost against Fire Dance's strength. Is she a monster? Dark Bear wondered to himself as he stared at Fire Dance in shock. Dark Bear could tell that Fire Dance had simply used the previous exchange to probe his strength. She hadn't used her full power. During that exchange, the Zero-Wing Assassin hadn't even used a skill. Had Fire Dance applied a skill to her previous attack, the power of her strike would have definitely been much stronger. Had that attack struck his body, rather than his weapons, he would have likely lost at least 50% of his HP. In other words, Fire Dance only needed 2 attacks to finish him off. Even Lonely Lamp and the other party members now feared Fire Dance, watching her with somber expressions, not to mention Dark Bear. Similarly, the outcome of the exchange between Dark Bear and Fire Dance had stupefied the crowd at the Primordial Divine Ruin. Based on the change in Dark Bear's aura, they knew that the Berserker's basic attributes had increased by a significant margin, yet his transformation was meaningless before Fire Dance. However, What these players didn't know was that the strength Fire Dance could exert after sacrificing 1 point of durability from her tier 3 mana dagger was far beyond what any berserk skill could achieve. We can't hold back against her. Everyone, transform. We need to finish her off quickly. If the other peak experts get here, we'll be in trouble. Lonely Lamp hurriedly commanded, losing his previous composure. Fire Dance alone was already troublesome for them. If another of Zero Wing's peak experts arrived, they would have no choice but to turn tail and flee. After saying so, Lonely Lamp and the other 4 Dark Hunters took on their mutated forms, but not all of them had grown an extra pair of arms like the tier 2 Berserker. Lonely Lamp grew an extra pair of eyes, and his arms merged with the crystalline longbow he wielded. Overall, these players' transformations suited their classes. You are the first player to single-handedly force our entire party to transform since we joined God's domain. But at the end of the day, you're still just one person. As long as we ignore the risks, we will secure victory, Lonely Lamp said, smirking at Fire Dance. He then retrieved 12 black arrows that radiated a horrific aura from his bag. At this point, Lonely Lamp had no intention of holding anything back. He had found these 12 black arrows from an ancient ruin, and each of them had the power of a peak tier 3 attack. They even posed a threat to tier 4 existences. Is that so? What if you have to face 2 people? Suddenly, a dull voice reached the Dark Hunters from their surroundings, echoing powerfully in Lonely Lamp's mind. In the next moment, a massive spatial tear appeared beside Fire Dance. Shifeng's figure then slowly stepped out of the spatial tear. Chapter 1739, Annihilating the Dark Hunters. Chapter 1739, Annihilating the Dark Hunters. Black Flame? Lonely Lamp's expression darkened when he saw Shifeng. The other 5 Dark Hunters also halted their assault as they stared at the swordsman, fear surfacing in their gazes. After the battles in Stone Forest Town and near the primordial divine ruin, Black Flame's fame had spread to the various countries across God's domain, including the Dark Knight Empire. Although these 6 players had never fought Black Flame personally, they knew that both his basic attributes and combat standards were at the apex of God's domain after witnessing the man's battle videos. Even under normal circumstances, their 6-man party would have to take extreme care around Black Flame. Originally, they had a chance of completing their mission since Fire Dance had been alone, but now that Black Flame had joined the fray, their chances were uncertain. Black Flame is finally making his move? The various superpowers watching from a distance could not help but grow excited upon Shifeng's appearance. They had very eagerly watched the clash between Fire Dance and the Dark Hunters, but they had also worried that the female assassin might die. They had been worried because they wanted to see the 6 Dark Hunters' true strength. This was the first time they had encountered players that could transform into monsters. They hadn't even known that was possible until today. Naturally, they had to collect as much information on these 6 players as possible. They might even discover some clues that could help them acquire this power. From what they could tell, the Dark Hunter's ability to transform into monsters was definitely stronger than a berserk skill since the transformation gave the players a body that altered and improved their combat standards. If their guild's experts could grasp this power, it would undoubtedly increase the guild's overall strength. Hence, they very much hoped that Zero Wing could defeat the Dark Hunters, forcing the 6 Dark Hunters to use everything they had. If the Dark Hunters achieved victory instead, however, they wouldn't know whether or not these players had held back anything. Leader, what should we do? Even if we have the strength to defeat 2 of them, it'll likely take a long time to do so, Lanhua asked through the team chat as she quietly observed Shifeng. Our opponents are too powerful. Prepare to retreat. Lonely Lamp said, breathing a deep sigh as he glanced at Fire Dance and Shifeng. If their party tried to fight Shifeng and Fire Dance, regardless of the battle's outcome, the Dark Hunter's party would be annihilated in the end. It wouldn't take long for Zero Wing's other peak experts to arrive, after all. If they did die, they'd suffer an even worse death penalty than ordinary dark players, which wasn't an outcome Lonely Lamp wished to see. Understood. Although the other 5 dark hunters felt reluctant, they nodded and prepared to flee. What? Leaving so soon? Lonely Lamp and his party members' action surprised Shifeng a little. He hadn't expected the dark hunters to be so decisive, retreating the moment they realized how disadvantageous their situation had become. Guild leader Black Flame, you jest. We are not so foolish as to think that the 6 of us can stand against you and Commander Fire Dance, Lonely Lamp calmly explained as he looked at Shifeng. Since we've already accomplished our mission, albeit barely, we will be taking our leave. Saying so, Lonely Lamp fired the 12 black arrows in his hands, aiming 4 at Fire Dance and 8 at Shifeng. Each arrow carried power at the peak of Tier 3. Current players had no chance of blocking them. Even against a monster like Shifeng, Lonely Lamp was confident that his arrows would push the swordsman back slightly. Meanwhile, their party could use the opportunity to leave the area safely. However, Shifeng unhurriedly unsheathed Killing Ray and lightly swung the blade at the air. Suddenly, a blue lightning bolt tore through the space before him. Lightning slash. The massive lightning bolt devoured all 12 black arrows instantly, and the intense shockwaves that resulted even made the surrounding space tremble. After a brief moment, the black arrows disintegrated. Lonely Lamp and his companions, who prepared to run, were thoroughly dumbfounded. They forgot about their retreat as they stared at the vanishing black arrows. How is that possible? Lonely Lamp could not believe what he had just seen. Those were 12 black arrows they were talking about. Even a mythic monster would have trouble dealing with such an attack, yet Shifeng had crushed it with a single move. For a moment, he even wondered if heaven were playing some joke on him. He truly hadn't thought that Shifeng would actually block all 12 black arrows successfully. He had watched Shifeng's battle against the mythic evil demon. The man shouldn't be capable of blocking the black arrows so easily. At the very least, blocking the attack should have pushed the swordsman back by over a dozen yards. Naturally, the spectating crowd was similarly dumbfounded. Strong. Too strong. The various superpowers were no strangers to black arrows. They all had their own small stockpile. Normally, these arrows were stored in their guild warehouses, only to be used against sufficiently valuable bosses. However, after watching Shifeng destroy 12 black arrows so effortlessly, they felt like fools. They had all treated these black arrows, which could be blocked so easily, like priceless treasures. You can't possibly think that you can leave safely after that little trick, do you? Shifeng said indifferently as he glanced at the 6 dark hunters before him. Leader, what should we do? Lonely Lamp's party members asked the ranger. Previously, they had only feared Shifeng due to his fame, but after watching him destroy 12 black arrows in an instant, true fear gripped their hearts. They finally realized why so many people called Shifeng a monster. We don't have any other choice. Use the advanced Mad Demon Potion. Lonely Lamp said, gnashing his teeth as he stared at Shifeng. Hearing this, the other 5 dark hunters were shocked. The advanced Mad Demon Potion was a special berserk potion, which they had gone to great lengths to purchase. When consumed, it would grant mutated players like themselves another boost in power for 30 seconds. It was akin to a twofold berserk. However, this twofold berserk did not come without a price. Once the potion's duration ended, they would lose 40%'s worth of EXP. In addition, they would also fall into a weakened state for a short time. Hence, they understood that this potion should never be used unless absolutely necessary. But they also realized that this potion was their only chance of escape right now. Guild leader Black Flame. You are as amazing as the rumors say. However, I'm afraid that you still lack the strength to keep us here. Saying so, Lonely Lamp took out an advanced Mad Demon Potion and drank it. The other 5 dark hunters did the same. Suddenly, the 6 dark hunters' auras grew more intense. Previously, their auras had rivaled great lords of the same level, but now, their auras were even stronger than that of a Grand Lord of the same level. Immediately, the 6 players split up and ran. "I don't think so." Shifeng revealed a calm smile. Following which, he activated Power of Darkness, skyrocketing his basic attributes. He then stabbed the abyssal blade into the ground. Forbidden Domain. Abyssal Curse. With Shifeng as the center, pitch-black ripples spread up to a 30-yard radius. At the same time, every one of his enemies within a 500-yard radius became unable to use any skills, spells, or tools. Not only did Abyssal Curse's activation bind all 6 Dark Hunters, but it also decreased their basic attributes by 20%. Reacting quickly, the 6 tried to activate their control removal skills. However, no matter how much Lonely Lamp and the others willed for their skills to activate, their skills remained inactive. As the 6 Dark Hunters struggled to break free of their restraints, Shifeng raised Killing Ray once again and lightly swung the sacred sword at the Dark Hunters. Lightning Edge. Countless arcs of lightning formed before Shifeng, forming a river that devoured Lonely Lamp and the others. When the river of lightning faded, only 7 items lay on the ground where the Dark Hunters had stood. Chapter 1740, Black Flames Warning. Chapter 1740, Black Flames Warning. The moment the 6 Dark Hunters died, silence filled the battlefield. Even the Crimson Horn members, who currently fled the battlefield, could not help but pause to look at the fading river of lightning. For a moment, the watching players even wondered if their eyes were playing tricks on them. It wouldn't have been unusual if Shifeng had merely slain a bunch of ordinary experts with a single hit, but the 6 Dark Hunters hadn't been ordinary experts. They were bona fide great experts. Every one of them was strong enough to make the various dark guilds in the Dark Knight Empire shudder with fear. Yet, now, as if swatting a bunch of flies, Shifeng had incapacitated and killed the 6 Dark Hunters with a single swing of his sword. They died? How is this possible? Those are the Dark Hunters we are talking about. Crimson Ghost, who had long since put some distance between himself and the heart of the battlefield, stared at Lonely Lamp and his companion's prior location in a daze. He had experienced Lonely Lamp's strength personally before. After transforming, Lonely Lamp and the other Dark Hunters' combat power was only slightly weaker than his when he activated a Berserk skill. However, unlike his Berserk skill, Lonely Lamp and the others' transformation did not have a duration. Once his Berserk skill's duration ended, he'd meet death very quickly. Moreover, Lonely Lamp's party had consumed a mysterious potion that had heightened their aura's intensity. Needless to say, their basic attributes must have risen further. If he had to fight Lonely Lamp while the Ranger was in such a state, he'd likely die after a few hits even with his Berserk skill active, yet even after multiple boosts, Shifeng had killed the party instantly. He might be able to accept Shifeng's victory after an arduous battle, but that hadn't happened. As soon as Shifeng took the situation somewhat seriously, Lonely Lamp and the other Dark Hunters had burned to ash. When Crimson Ghost looked at Shifeng, who quietly stood before the items Lonely Lamp and his party had dropped, his whole body shuddered. Too scary. Fear and relief overwhelmed his heart. Shifeng was a true monster with bottomless strength. If he weren't certain that Shifeng was, in fact, a player, he might even suspect that Shifeng was an NPC the main god system had created to prank God's Domain's players. Fortunately, he had not allowed his army to fight Zero Wing's forces. Even if some of his players survived, his army would have suffered severe losses. Meanwhile, the players from the various superpowers that watched from the primordial divine ruin gasped when the Dark Hunters had been annihilated, their eyes nearly falling out of their sockets. The 6 Dark Hunters exuded auras that could even rival Grand Lords of the same level. This proved that their basic attributes had reached that standard. Coupled with the Dark Hunters' combat standards, none of the superpowers present were confident that they could stop the 6 players' escape. No, to be precise, they might even struggle in a head-on fight against these 6 players. On the other hand, not only had Shifeng killed all 6 Dark Hunters by himself, but he had also done so with one attack. Because of this, the various superpowers upper echelons all wore solemn expressions. Since Shifeng could exterminate the 6 Dark Hunters, needless to say, he should have no issues doing the same to them. This also implied that, as long as Shifeng wished it, he could kill any one of them. Knowing this, how could they not take Shifeng more seriously? This man, Quiet Melody, could not help but shake her head and smile bitterly as she watched Shifeng collect the items Lonely Lamp and his party had dropped. It seems that not only did we fail to learn anything about those 6 players, but we also received a dire warning. In her opinion, Shifeng had killed the 6 Dark Hunters instantly for 2 reasons. First, he didn't want others to take advantage of his efforts by learning the Dark Hunters' bottom line and secrets. The second reason was to give superpowers like the Sacred Temple a warning. Since he could kill the Dark Hunters so easily, he was naturally capable of killing superpowers upper echelons like her. It was a message that they should reconsider targeting Zero Wing at the Primordial Divine Ruin. Otherwise, they would suffer a similar fate. Blue Jade, who stood beside Quiet Melody, nodded in agreement with her Vice Temple Master's words, complex emotions flashing in her eyes as she watched Shifeng. After this battle, her admiration for Shifeng had doubtlessly increased. However, she also bore a sense of rivalry in her heart. She felt as if she had just found a goal worth working towards. This black flame is truly arrogant. He actually dares to send the various superpowers a warning. Although he is arrogant, he has clearly earned it. Can't you see the various superpowers' faces? Those looks are priceless. It seems that nobody should entertain ideas of targeting Zero Wing at the Primordial Divine Ruin in the future. That's right. Not only does Silverwing Town have such powerful and long-range defensive structures, but it is also protected by so many incredible experts. Even without the NPC guards, nobody would dare to target Silverwing Town and Zero Wing. Both the guilds and the adventurer teams resting at the Primordial Divine Ruin elevated their opinions of Zero Wing. Some adventurer teams even thought of joining the guild as a whole. Now that Zero Wing dominated the Orc Empire's Primordial Divine Ruin, its development speed would be astounding. It might even become a super first-rate guild in the virtual gaming world in a short time. If they joined Zero Wing before the guild became a super first-rate guild, they would have a higher chance of becoming internal members. If they became core members, they'd be set for life. Damn it. Did Black Flame purposefully wait until the Dark Hunters attacked to make his move? Wind Hunter, who watched the battle from a safe distance, cursed as the Dark Hunters died, his complexion paling. He had thought that Lonely Lamp's party could cause Zero Wing some trouble, but they had only succeeded in throwing their lives away. Moreover, he had dispatched quite a few evil demons and evil beasts to reinforce Lonely Lamp's party. As a result, his minions were more clumped than usual, allowing the magic towers to target the monsters more easily. Suddenly, Beast Emperor's phantom appeared beside Wind Hunter. Beast Emperor then said, "All right, that's enough. Wind, you need retreat as well. We no longer have the ability to do anything against Silverwing Town. But are we going to let Zero Wing off the hook, just like that?" Frustration tore at Wind Hunter. Not only had his campaign failed to damage the guild, but it had also bolstered Zero Wing's reputation. Moreover, his monster army had sustained a lot of damage. This was the first time he had suffered such a severe loss. No. Of course, we won't let Zero Wing off the hook. Regardless of my agreement with Nine Dragons Emperor or my personal reasons, I want to remove Zero Wing from God's domain permanently. But it's not time for that yet, Beast Emperor said as he glared at Shifeng's distant figure, killing intent radiating from his eyes. Because of that man, his path to promotion had been cut short. How could he possibly spare Zero Wing after the losses he had suffered? However, thanks to this operation, Zero Wing has provoked the Dark Hunters. Provoked the Dark Hunters? Wind Hunter could not help his confusion. That's right. The Dark Hunters Adventurer Team is a mysterious organization consisting of a bunch of lunatics. Nobody can guess their true thoughts. However, one thing you can be sure of is that they are a vengeful bunch. Now that Black Fame has killed Lonely Lamp, one of its core members, the Dark Hunters won't let Zero Wing get away with this, Beast Emperor said, sneering. Zero Wing will only maintain its arrogance for a short time. Once the Dark Hunters take action, Zero Wing's days will be numbered. I understand. Wind Hunter nodded. He then commanded his evil demons and evil beasts to depart from the battlefield. However, even though the evil beasts and evil demons had begun their retreat, Shifeng commanded Zero Wing's members to chase the monsters down. In the end, Zero Wing slaughtered another large number of evil demons and evil beasts. Meanwhile, news of this battle's outcome quickly spread to the neighboring countries. Chapter 1741, Popular Silverwing. Chapter 1741, Popular Silverwing. After the battle outside of Silverwing Town, Zero Wing's prestige and reputation skyrocketed. Zero Wing is amazing. Even Beast Emperor's monster army is helpless against the guild. I've heard that you can get plenty of combat techniques from the primordial divine ruin. Now that nobody can contest Zero Wing for Silverwing Town, won't Zero Wing acquire a ton of combat techniques? That's not all. Don't forget about Primordial City. I've heard that Primordial City can help players improve their combat standards. I've heard that Zero Wing has been recruiting new members lately. Why don't we give it a try? I've also heard that even Zero Wing's elite members can learn combat techniques without signing a binding contract right now. What? Those are combat techniques we're talking about. I've heard that even large guilds' core members have to sign strict contracts if they wish to learn one of the guild's combat techniques. Honestly, you can learn Zero Wing's combat techniques without joining the guild. Only, the price is exorbitant. However, if you become an elite member, you can get a significant discount. As news of Zero Wing's victory spread, many independent players made their way towards Star Moon Kingdom to join Zero Wing. As a result, the number of players applying to join Zero Wing had increased by nearly 3 times. For a time, Aqua Rose was swamped with work. To make matters worse, now that Zero Wing had proven that it had the strength to defend Silverwing Town, a large number of merchant players and corporations hoped to purchase shops, conducting their business in the town. This was especially true for the corporations that sold virtual goods. However, Shifeng had no intention of selling Silverwing Town's shops. Instead, he would only rent them out. Moreover, the rental price was an astronomical 2,000 gold or 6,000 magic crystals per month. Because of this price, 99% of the merchant players cursed Zero Wing. This was simply fraudulent. Shifeng's decision even confused Aqua Rose. With 2,000 gold, one could buy a very good plot of land in an NPC town. Even in guild towns, strategically located shops only sold for 800 gold or so, yet not only were Silverwing Town's shops only available to rent, but the rental cost was also 2,000 gold per month. With so much money, players could permanently purchase 2 good plots of land in another guild town. Although Silverwing Town's location was strategic, teleportation war fortresses had appeared in the Orc Empire. It was only a matter of time before the various large guilds occupied these fortresses. Once that happened, Silverwing Town's value would fall. The wisest decision Zero Wing could make right now would be pulling as many merchant players as possible to Silverwing Town. By doing so, Zero Wing could make a fortune and solidify the town's position and advantage in the Orc Empire. Yet, Shifeng had chosen to rent the town's shops at astronomical prices, scaring away many merchant players that had solid foundations. When the various large guilds began to capture teleportation war fortresses, these merchant players would gravitate to these fortresses instead. Doing this wouldn't benefit Zero Wing. But Shifeng paid the matter no heed. First, the Orc Empire's teleportation war fortresses were not that easy to capture. Second, Silverwing Town had 5 magic towers. Players could gain a full rest just by standing in the town. They wouldn't need to rent rooms from a hotel. There was also the Spirited State buff, which could help players level up far more quickly. One could easily imagine how attractive Silverwing Town would be to players. However, these players wouldn't just loiter on the street like fools, doing nothing. They would stroll around the town and window shop. The chances that they'd spend some money would be quite high. In addition, unlike Zero Wing City, where players could accumulate the double EXP buff even while they were offline, players in Silverwing Town had to remain online to take advantage of the Spirited State buff. They could only take advantage of the buff while offline if they rested in a hotel room or a guild hall. Hence, there would be many players strolling down Silverwing Town streets. With how many players would wander Silverwing Town streets, business in the town would thrive as well as those in Zero Wing City. Naturally, he couldn't ask for too low of a price for the town's shops. Moreover, Silverwing Town needed to maintain more than just the 5 magic towers. There was also the Magic King, Craig Midlands. Silverwing Town's daily operation costs could drive any first-rate guild crazy. Including the fact that Silverwing Town needed the funds to develop and had limited space, selling the shops cheaply would be foolish. Rather, setting up hotels in place of shops would generate more income for the town. In the end, only 6 merchant associations were willing to rent shops in Silverwing Town. Although there were so few, Zero Wing had still earned 12,000 gold. This allowed the guild to construct more high-rise buildings in the town, which would, in turn, hasten the town's promotion to an intermediate town. A neutral town's promotion conditions weren't like those of towns constructed within kingdoms and empires. In addition to the population and town reputation requirements, the neutral town also needed to achieve certain conditions. These conditions involved a certain number of high-rise buildings and NPC merchants. Unfortunately, due to safety concerns, NPC merchants would rarely set foot into neutral maps. The town needed to earn a C rank in safety, but trying to do so with a basic town was excruciatingly difficult. Because of this, neutral towns had a hard time getting promoted. One had to develop the town to its very limits before it could reach the next rank. Of course, there were methods that could hasten this process, and one involved using a town promotion order. Only, the town promotion order a neutral town required was unusual. To upgrade a basic neutral town to an intermediate neutral town, one would need a gold-ranked town promotion order. Meanwhile, gold town promotion orders could be used to upgrade an intermediate town to advanced rank in kingdoms and empires. One could easily imagine how difficult such a promotion order would be to obtain. Even Shifeng did not have a guaranteed method of acquiring a gold town promotion order. All he could do was hasten the construction of high-rise buildings in Silverwing Town. Although it was true that Silverwing Town currently had the ability to stop Beast Emperor's forces, he wasn't so arrogant to think that Silverwing Town's current state would always be enough to stop Beast Emperor. After all, the evil god's temple, which Beast Emperor belonged to, was everyone's enemy on the god's domain continent. If given enough time to grow, Beast Emperor could definitely become strong enough to overcome Silverwing Town's current defenses. Moreover, Beast Emperor wasn't the only enemy Zero Wing had to worry about. The various superpowers also eyed Silverwing Town. With these superpowers' foundations, they would only grow stronger as time passed. Once the various superpowers realized Primordial City's true importance and gathered sufficient strength, they wouldn't miss the chance to strike at Silverwing Town. The various superpowers only saw the benefits Silverwing Town currently offered. However, they had neglected to notice the potential threat Silverwing Town could become. Hence, Shifeng needed to develop and fortify Silverwing Town as quickly as possible. However, although Zero Wing currently had a gold mine like Zero Wing City, which earned a large number of coins and magic crystals each day, it wasn't enough to sustain the guild's development. This was because Zero Wing had constantly recruited new members recently. Since the start of the latest recruitment drive, more than 150,000 players had joined the guild. This number would only increase as time went on. Meanwhile, the guild needed to provide all sorts of benefits for these new members, and to do so, the guild would need a ton of resources. Normally, new members were a good thing for a guild. After all, the more members a guild had, the stronger it would be. But Zero Wing wasn't like first-rate guilds. Zero Wing's sphere of influence was tiny in comparison. As a result, although Zero Wing had gained more members, the guild did not have the necessary territory to let these new members operate and generate wealth for the guild, which was necessary to sustain the guild benefits its members enjoyed. To put it simply, Zero Wing couldn't afford to take in so many members. If the guild wished to develop, it would need a large amount of resources and coins. Without the proper funds, the guild couldn't be self-sufficient. Meanwhile, after the battle, Shi Feng returned to Silverwing Town's candlelight trading firm and began to evaluate the guild's latest harvest. After killing the evil demons and evil beasts, the guild had acquired nearly 2,000 evil energy crystals from this battle. This was a considerable harvest. However, it was a drop in the bucket compared to how many evil energy crystals Shi Feng needed. Huh? What's this? As Shi Feng inspected the loot from the Dark Hunters, he noticed a skeletal hand made entirely of crystal. Surprisingly, Shi Feng couldn't actually inspect the skeletal hand normally. The system simply stated that it was an unknown item. His curiosity piqued. Shi Feng used omniscient eyes to inspect the skeletal hand. The instant he tried to appraise the item, he heard the sounds of a series of system notifications. Chapter 1742, Philosopher's Hand. Chapter 1742, Philosopher's Hand. System, you have discovered the cursed Philosopher's Hand. System, epic ranked main storyline quest, Philosopher's Wish, activated. Quest content, locate the World Forest using the Philosopher's Hand and activate the World Gate. Reward, Philosopher's Hand. A legendary item? Shi Feng's heart pounded rapidly when he saw the system notifications. He had never thought that he would have the opportunity to acquire the Philosopher's Hand in this life. Any alchemist in God's domain would definitely have heard of the Philosopher's Hand. Like the Philosopher's Stone, the Philosopher's Hand was a treasure of the alchemy world, so Shi Feng knew quite a bit about it. It was a bona fide legendary item. Unlike the Philosopher's Stone, the Philosopher's Hand was a complete, undamaged item. Countless lifestyle players dreamed of using its abilities. If one were to say that the power of the Philosopher's Stone focused on refining materials, then the Philosopher's Hand focused on strengthening the standards of lifestyle players, allowing them to break through all kinds of bottlenecks easily and continuously elevate themselves to a higher level. In his past, the Philosopher's Hand had appeared in the hands of the first-rate guild Kingdom's Sword. With the help of the Philosopher's Hand, the lifestyle players working under Kingdom's Sword were able to develop rapidly. Back then, this incident had shaken the entire Dark Knight Empire. The trading firm operated by Kingdom's Sword also quickly became one of the top 3 trading firms in the Dark Knight Empire, inciting the other first-rate guilds' envy. However, the Dark Knight Empire was an empire even stronger than the Black Dragon Empire. There were a total of 4 superpowers fighting over the empire. One could easily imagine what kind of end had awaited Kingdom's Sword. In the end, the 4 superpowers requested that Kingdom's Sword sell its Philosopher's Hand. Although it was presented as a request, in reality, it was closer to coercion. However, Kingdom's Sword had already grown to become an extremely powerful first-rate guild by then. The guild had plenty of expert members and was already well on its way to becoming a super first-rate guild. Naturally, Kingdom's Sword had refused the superpowers' requests. After all, the requirement to become a super first-rate guild was to have sufficient financial strength and resources. If Kingdom's Sword sold its Philosopher's Hand, that would be equivalent to severing its path towards becoming a super first-rate guild. Originally, it would have indeed been very difficult for one superpower to deal with a powerful first-rate guild like Kingdom's Sword. The surprising thing was that the 4 superpowers had actually worked together to deal with Kingdom's Sword. As a result, Kingdom's Sword had become history from then on. However, the guild leader of Kingdom's Sword was also ruthless. Even when his guild had been on the brink of annihilation, he had still refused to hand over the Philosopher's Hand. In the end, none of the 4 superpowers had gotten their hands on it, and the alchemy treasure had vanished from God's domain with the kingdom's sword guild. Shi Feng found it truly surprising that the Philosopher's hand had appeared before him. If not for being targeted by 4 superpowers, there was no doubt that Kingdom's Sword would have become a super first-rate guild. After all, the further one progressed in the game, the more important lifestyle players became to guilds. Many weapons, equipment, and items had to be crafted by the various lifestyle players. It was simply impossible to sustain a guild's development with dropped items alone. Looking at the Philosopher's hand, many ideas danced in Shi Feng's mind. Although Silverwing Town seemed free of issues right now, the town would face great danger in the future. Sufficient power would be needed to maintain the town's safety. Although he had acquired the Bronze Guardian puppet design, Zero Wing simply wasn't capable of producing the Bronze Guardian puppet right now. It might be fine if he had obtained a design for the common Guardian puppet, as it did not require master-ranked lifestyle players to be produced. However, the Bronze Guardian puppet's minimum requirement was to have a master forger, a master alchemist, a master engineer, and a master enchanter. In addition, some parts needed to be made by 2 different kinds of masters, while some needed all 4 kinds of masters working together to make them. The Bronze Guardian puppets could only be crafted after meeting the requirements. Even then, the production success rate was very low. If one wished to produce the Bronze Guardian puppet reliably, the master lifestyle players selected had to be intermediate or advanced masters. Basic masters were too unreliable. Fulfilling these conditions was wishful thinking for the current Zero Wing. Master lifestyle players were not available on demand. Even 10 years after God's domain had launched, basic masters had been extremely rare and had been greatly respected by the various large guilds, let alone intermediate and advanced masters. However, if Zero Wing acquired the Philosopher's hand, it would be possible to nurture a bunch of basic masters within a short time. Building up some intermediate masters might even be possible. At that time, Zero Wing could start the production of the Bronze Guardian puppet. Just thinking about such a future was incredibly exciting. Bronze Guardian puppets possessed combat power at the peak of Tier 3. Moreover, players could control them fully since they were much easier to control than summoned creatures. A Void Realm expert that was ignorant of the realms of truth could still, at the very minimum, exhibit combat power at the refinement realm when controlling a Guardian puppet. Most importantly, unlike summoned creatures, Guardian puppets could be used permanently. They even dealt additional damage to buildings and magic arrays. Whether they were used in a siege or defensive battle, Guardian puppets were the perfect tool. Countless guilds had dreamed of obtaining Guardian puppets in the past. Guardian puppets were so powerful that the first-rate guilds that had them could even afford to provoke superpowers and get away with it. If he could produce several dozen Bronze Guardian puppets now, nobody in God's domain could threaten Silverwing Town. Even if 10 mythic monsters charged at the town, the monsters could be easily stopped with 40 Bronze Guardian puppets. After all, Guardian puppets had extremely high defense, rivaling Tier 4 monsters. If he had 100 Bronze Guardian puppets right now, he would immediately set out to annihilate Ancient Rock City's evil god Branch Temple right now. Of course, these were only fantasies. However, with the Philosopher's hand, it was entirely possible to turn these fantasies into reality. Setting aside those ideas for the moment, Shi Feng quickly inspected the Philosopher's hand statistics. Cursed Philosopher's Hand. As the creator of the Philosopher's Hand failed to complete his wish before death, the creator's soul had attached itself to the Philosopher's Hand and cursed it to lose all of its power. Only after removing this curse will the Philosopher's Hand recover its original abilities. 20 stalks of soul-dissolving flower are necessary to activate soul guidance and remove the curse. Soul-dissolving flower? What a ruthless price. Shi Feng could not help but frown after reading the item's introduction. In God's domain, any item pertaining to souls was extraordinarily valuable. Shi Feng knew a little about the soul-dissolving flower. It was an extremely rare epic material and the main material needed to produce the master-ranked meditation potion. The meditation potion was one of the rare few potions capable of helping players learn combat techniques more easily. After consuming a master meditation potion, the potion would offer players guidance that would help them grasp combat techniques very quickly. In the past, the potion had been highly sought after by the various major powers. Unlike skills and spells, players needed to train arduously to learn a combat technique. Even expert players struggled to learn basic combat techniques, not to mention advanced combat techniques and above. Hence, one could easily imagine how valuable the soul-dissolving flower was. On the market, each stalk could sell for 300 gold. Even so, nobody would be willing to sell a soul-dissolving flower they had obtained, as they were exceedingly rare, so rare that even the various superpowers could only get their hands on a small number. The flower's rarity was because it did not exist on the continent of God's domain. Instead, it only existed in other worlds and higher planes, which made them extremely difficult to acquire. Yet, the philosopher's hand actually required 20 stalks of soul-dissolving flower. At this moment, Shifeng finally understood why the philosopher's hand had only appeared after mainstream players had already reached level 80. At that time, the pathways connecting the continent of God's domain and other worlds had already been opened. Most likely, Kingdom's sword had only managed to collect the 20 soul-dissolving flowers after that event. It seems there's a need to make another trip to the Ice Crystal world. The only other world Shifeng could freely travel to right now was the Ice Crystal world. Although there was also the option of visiting a higher plane, it would take a very long amount of time to collect 20 soul-dissolving flowers all by himself. Meanwhile, there were many players in the Ice Crystal world. Done thinking, Shifeng contacted Lifeless Thorn and the other members of the Azura Adventurer team and had them gather in White River City. After grouping up, they headed towards the Ice Crystal world. Chapter 1743, Revisiting the Ice Crystal World. Chapter 1743, Revisiting the Ice Crystal World. Ice Crystal World, Cold Wind City, the Snow Rift. Icy cold winds blew endlessly inside the snowy valley. If a player without ice resistance stood here, they would no doubt freeze to death. Even if players possessed sufficient ice resistance to survive the cold environment, their stamina consumption would be several times higher than usual. Currently, however, there was a very large number of players grinding inside the snow rift. Looking down from the top of the mountain, one would see many large groups of players grinding the monsters here, seemingly used to fighting in this place already. We just left for a short while, and there are actually so many people grinding here already? Yenya, who was currently dressed in exquisite dark blue mage robes and wielding an emerald staff, was slightly surprised as she looked down at the crowd of players grinding beneath the mountain. Even the lowest leveled player among the players present inside the snow rift was level 50, with most of them being level 51. Some of the players giving out orders had even reached level 52. In an empire on the continent of God's domain, a level 52 player could easily rank within the top 30, yet there were actually more than 30 level 52 players present in the snow rift. Yenya and the rest of the Azura Adventurer team members that had gone over to the continent of God's domain together with Shifeng had been roaming about the continent grinding and questing constantly. Shifeng had even helped them level up a little. However, they had only reached level 52, yet so many independent experts of Cold Wind City had already managed to reach the same point. The monsters in the Ice Crystal world are stronger and provide more EXP, so the leveling speed of the players here is faster than that of the players on the main continent. Right now, the average level of large guild members on the main continent is already close to reaching level 50. It is very normal for the mainstream players here to reach level 51 and 52, Shifeng said, not finding this situation particularly surprising. During his previous visit to the Ice Crystal world, he had discovered that the average level of the players here was much higher than the players on the continent of God's domain. The part that truly surprised Shifeng was the weapons and equipment these players were using. The drop rate for weapons and equipment in the Ice Crystal world was extremely low. Normally, monsters here only dropped materials. The main source of weapons and equipment was from lifestyle players. Hence, the quality of the weapons and equipment used by the players here was considerably inferior to those used by the players on the main continent. In contrast, the standard of the lifestyle players here was much higher. Most of the level 50 players present in the Snow Rift were geared in level 50 mysterious iron equipment, with some even being geared in level 50 secret silver equipment. The equipment standard of these players was not the slightest bit inferior to the players residing on the main continent. After reaching level 50, the drop rate for weapons and equipment would decrease drastically. Currently, level 50, 20-man team dungeons were the goal of independent players on the main continent. Meanwhile, the best equipment dropped in these dungeons was level 50 secret silver rank, although the drop rate was extremely low. The drop rate was only at an acceptable level if one rated at Hell mode. However, a level 50, 20-man Hell mode team dungeon was still too difficult of a challenge for current independent players. As a result, even after reaching level 50, most players on the continent of God's domain would only be geared in level 50 mysterious iron equipment. Few of them possessed secret silver equipment. As for level 50 fine gold equipment, that was something only large guilds were capable of acquiring. It also wasn't very easy for players to produce high-quality level 50 equipment. After reaching level 50, not only did the production procedures for weapons and equipment become more complex, but the production success rate also decreased. Even Shifeng, despite having become a basic master forger already, still needed the help of a bunch of excellent support tools to produce high-quality level 50 equipment at a profitable rate. Shifeng found it very difficult to imagine that the lifestyle players of Cold Wind City were already capable of producing level 50 secret silver weapons and equipment. If the lifestyle players here had truly reached such a standard already, then the average forging standard of Cold Wind City was even higher than that of the Candlelight trading firm. The Candlelight trading firm possessed many secret forging techniques. Candlelight could even send players to train at the Holy City of Titan. Members of Candlelight could also work and practice in the mana-rich environment of Zero Wing City, yet despite these factors, Candlelight's overall forging standard was still inferior to the forging standard of Cold Wind City. How could Shifeng not be surprised by this fact? "Commander, those people over there seem to be members of our adventurer team," Solitary 9 said, smiling as he pointed at a 50-man team currently fighting against a level 56 Great Lord. Currently, 6 level 51 MTs were working together to pin down the level 56 Great Lord ranked Frost Ape. The Frost Ape was very powerful. Even when 3 MTs worked together to receive one of its normal attacks, the MTs would still get pushed back and receive over 10,000 damage each. To cope with the Frost Ape's powerful attacks, the 6 MTs would take turns receiving its attacks. Of course, to level 51 MTs, losing 10,000 plus HP was not a cause for concern. Instead, the truly troublesome part about the Frost Ape was the freezing debuff its attacks inflicted. If one were struck by the Frost Ape, their body's movements would turn sluggish. If struck too many times, even their movement speed would decrease. At the same time, the damage they received would also increase. However, although the Frost Ape was very powerful, Azura's 50-man team was still able to reduce its HP steadily. It was only a matter of time before the Frost Ape died. After hearing Solitary 9's words, Lifeless Thorn, Cleansing Whistle, Dark Madness, Yenya, and the other members of Azura in the team turned to look in the Frost Ape's direction. For a moment, they all could not help but sigh ruefully. Although the Azura members that were currently in combat were relatively strong and high-leveled, in their eyes, these players were still too lacking when it came to combat standards. This was something they had learned after leaving the Ice Crystal world. The players of the Ice Crystal world might be higher leveled, but the average combat standard of the players on the continent of God's domain was significantly higher. The Azura members in the Ice Crystal world needed 50 people to suppress the level 56 Great Lord ranked Frost Ape. If the task were left to the various large guilds of God's domain, a 20-man team would be more than enough to deal with such an opponent. Just as Solitary 9 and the others were talking about their fellow companions' combat standards, an army of players suddenly entered the valley below them. There were easily over 3,000 players in this army. Meanwhile, These players all wore level 50 mysterious iron equipment of matching designs. It was obvious that the equipment was player-made. Some of the leader-level individuals in this army were also equipped in 5 or more pieces of secret silver equipment. As for the 100-man team moving in the lead of this army, over half of the equipment on them was level 50 secret silver rank. The gorgeous and neat equipment these players wore quickly earned them the envy of the other players present inside the snow rift. At the same time, fear surfaced in the eyes of the surrounding crowd. The players in this army all wore a guild emblem in the shape of a black lion. They were, evidently, guild players. When the players grinding in the snow rift saw the arrival of these players, they immediately started a discussion between themselves. Amazing. So, this is Hecate? Sure enough, Hecate isn't something the guilds of Cold Wind City can hope to compare to. It's no wonder the Matchless family decided to join Hecate. Moreover, with how much pressure Hecate is placing on the Centurion dynasty, I believe it won't be long before the Centurion dynasty disbands. I really wish I could join Hecate. I heard that there are plenty of weapons and equipment made available for exchange in the guild. One is eligible to exchange for level 50 secret silver equipment just by becoming an elite member. It's a pity Hecate's recruitment requirements are too high. As the players grinding in the snow rift watched Hecate's army slowly approach, they felt a sense of yearning towards the guild. Right now, they had to grind arduously for rare materials and then use these materials to trade for a piece of level 50 secret silver equipment from Hecate. If they could become members of Hecate, however, they would not have to go through all that trouble. They also wouldn't have to make unfavorable trades with Hecate. Hecate is reserving this place. Non-members leave this place immediately. If you're not gone within 5 minutes, we'll forcefully evict you from this place. Just as the spectating crowd was chatting among themselves, a few of Hecate's members suddenly started evicting players from the map. What? Hecate has occupied several high-resource leveling maps before. This leveling spot is something we found after going through great lengths. How can you guys just come here and take it from us? That's right. This is too much. Without this place, how are we supposed to grind for rare materials? For a time, the various independent players all complained about Hecate's tyrannic actions. What? You guys have something to say about this? At this moment, a savage man wearing light blue armor walked out from Hecate's army. The man then sent a glance at the crowd before him, sneering, "If you have something to say, fine. Come say it to my face." Hearing this man's words, everyone suddenly went quiet. The savage man before them was named Vast Heaven, and very famous in Cold Wind City. On the first day he had arrived in Cold Wind City, he had killed over 30 experts from the Centurion dynasty. Afterward, in the guild war between Hecate and the Centurion dynasty, not only did Vast Heaven manage to kill over 100 players all by himself, he even managed to slay Centurion dynasty's guild leader, Sky Slicer. How could they possibly dare fight him? Everyone started quietly leaving the area, no longer daring to say anything about Hecate's actions. Meanwhile, Azura's 50-man team finally defeated the Frost Ape and were about to pick up their loot and leave as well. Wait a minute. This place is already under Hecate's management. You guys over there leave those materials behind. Vast Heaven shouted as he looked at Azura's members. Vast Heaven, we killed this boss. Don't you dare go overboard, the berserker serving as the leader of Azura's 50-man team said as he looked at Vast Heaven. What? You guys want to fight? Vast Heaven laughed. Sure. Come at me. I'll even let all of you attack me together. If you manage to kill me, I'll immediately have my men leave the area. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.